Hello friends. This is Fiction Quest. How are you all? So in this video, we will see, what if Naruto fell in love with Boa Hancock and get married? But before we start, if you want more amazing stuff like this, then be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Also, if possible, share this video with your friends. Now without wasting any more time, let's begin the story. Captain of the Marines, Namikaze Minato, smiled after seeing the outskirts of his old home, the Shidoka Island. He had left his island more than 8 months ago, having received a secret mission from the world government, and now he was back. And just imaging the smile that would be plastered on his son's face after discovering that his father was back sooner than planned. A grin formed on his own handsome face. Little Naruto was like a bundle of energy, always jumping and running around, just like his mother. Minato sighed and leaned on the board of his ship with a melancholic expression. Kushina. Oh, how he missed her. Her gentle smile, her endless confidence in him, her joy at being a mother. The joy that W is taken away from her too early. Those damned pirates. How could they have attacked a pregnant woman just because she was the wife of a marine captain? How could they do such an atrocious act? The blonde Namikaze closed his eyes and hung his head down. It didn't matter anymore. They have paid the price with their lives in the end. He made sure of it. And that was the day that people began calling him the Thunder God. He had after all decimated 168 pirates in a span of mere seconds with the use of the hockey technique he had developed, the Hiraishin. He wasn't very proud of himself that day, but in his heart he knew he had enjoyed the feel of their filthy blood on his hands. Revenge was a terrible thing. Captain, you have a call from the world government, a marine said, approaching the blonde. Coming, Minato said and followed his subordinate in the captain room. Once he was near the Den Mushi, he took in hand the microphone and spoke. Here is Captain Namikaze. I'm listening. Oh, Captain. So the mission was a success then? A voice stated through the Den. Indeed, Mr. Joichiro Okano. But I still can't understand why you insisted on me and my crew to return to Shidoka Island. Wasn't it easier and safer to deliver it to you directly? The blonde asked. I assure you, all is ready. Do not worry yourself, Captain. My men will come for the items very soon, Okano said. Until then, guard them preciously. You can count on me, sir, Minato replied. Perfect. Then I will not delay you any further from seeing your young son, Captain. Good day. You too, sir, the Namikaze said before hanging the microphone. The young father frowned a little. All that was really strange. Something was amiss, but he couldn't figure out what. Well, maybe was it paranoia? With a sigh he left the room and walked toward the front of the ship. Finally he was home. A little 7-year-old blonde boy was running toward the coast. He had seen a marine ship approach the island when he was training on the top of the little mountain of Shidoka, and that could mean only one thing. His father was back from the mission 1 week earlier than planned. And that was just awesome. That way he would be able to show his father just how strong he had become. With a face-splitting grin, he accelerated even more, rising dust behind him, making the villagers smile, already being used to the little troublemaker's antics. Suddenly a voice interrupted him in his footing. Hey Naru-chan. Catch this. The little blonde's eyes widened as he narrowly evaded the bottle that was going straight toward his head, by bending backwards. That of course made him stumble, and he fell painfully on the ground. With a thick mark on his forehead he stood up and pointed his index finger toward an old man that was sitting on a stool with an exaggerated innocent look on his face. You old coot, the blonde yelled, breathing heavily. The man in question wasn't looking like anything special. He had short gray hair with a mustache, a slightly lean build, which was a little strange for his age. He wore a green jacket with a white t-shirt underneath, black cargo pants and a pair of sandals. The most peculiar thing about him though was his long scar that ran from his right eye to the end of his neck, and of course his piercing green eyes. That old man was Denkoku Kanahaza, the most annoying old man in the whole village. He was an ex-admiral too, though. His father always told him that Denkoku was an extremely powerful man, but he never believed it. Maybe he was, a long, long time ago. But, duh, the man was a fossil. Naruto was sure he could kick his ass if he wanted. His father always asked the old Kanahaza to look after Naruto when he had to leave for a mission. And the blonde could remember the old man's face since his very birth. He was always here to look after him when his father was away. And to speak frankly, Denkoku was a good old man, and he loved him very much. But his crazy training methods were, well, crazy. Who in their right mind would send a bottle of rum at a 5-year-old boy, saying it was to increase his reflexes? Yahoo! 2 years of this training made him paranoid at seeing a bottle in someone's hand. That was a good dodge, Naru-chan. But your footwork still has many flaws, the old man said with a smile. Stop calling me Naru-chan. Denko Jiji. I'm not a kid anymore. I'm a man, Naruto exclaimed. Wahaha. Go then, little man, your father is at the coast. Right. See ya, and with that he dashed toward the port. Not long after, he arrived before the big marine ship. The little blonde smiled at the other kids who were watching in awe as the captain, Thunder God, Namikaze Minato left the ship and walked toward them. Oto-san. Naruto cried out before dashing toward his father. Naruto. Minato said with a big smile on his face. Have you been a good boy in my absence? Sure I was. I'm even stronger than before. Let's go, I'll show you. All right. Let's go. His father said before turning toward his subordinates. 10 men will be guarding the ship. The other can go in He village and rest a bit. You'll shift every 3 hours. Yes sir. His crew cried out before doing what their captain ordered. Father and son walked through the small village, with Minato greeting his old friends, and Naruto talking excitedly about everything. Finally they arrived before their house, a little 2-story house, made entirely of wood. There, at the door someone was waiting for them. Denkoku Dono. Minato said with a little bow. How did Naruto behave? Not very manly, I hope, he continued with a smile. To say the truth, he exceeded my expectations. He is much quicker and stronger than 8 months ago. His learning pace is remarkable, the old man answered. Is that so? The young father asked turning toward his son, who was beaming at him. Well, then I think a reward is in due. Naruto. What do you say about ramen? Yeah, ramen. The blonde cried out, bouncing up and down. All right. Go run toward the stand and begin eating, I'll arrive shortly after, the captain said, and seeing the frown on his son's face, continued. I just have to talk to Denkoku Dono, don't worry. And that way you could eat even more ramen. Okay. Naruto exclaimed and ran away. Minato watched his son run with a smile and turned toward the old man. His smile slid slowly and he mentioned for Kanahaza to go inside. And once they were seated comfortably on the couch, the old man began. What do you have here? He said pointing the little package in the captain's hands. We have them. All of them? The old man asked, surprised. Yes. All of them. I even found another, but no one knows about it, even my crew. Why is that? Denkoku asked, but then answered his own question, Naruto. Indeed. Which one? Suchi no mi, Minato replied calmly. Suchi. It's one of the rarest. How you found it? An old woman gave it to me when we were in Fushia village. An old woman gave it to you? One of the rarest devil fruits? How did you even find she had one? I didn't know. I was drinking in a bar, we were quite exhausted, when suddenly an old woman sat across from me and put a box on the table. She said, this will help your family, Namikaze Minato, and then after drinking a glass of something, she disappeared. Denkoku was frowning. That was more than strange. To give a devil fruit without even asking for money in return, was unheard of. She said, your family, not you, and I found it strange. I'm sure she was speaking of Naruto. Minato mumbled, not really paying attention. Anyway, I will not give this one to Okano. The 23 I've found should be enough. Take it. The younger man said, putting a little wooden box on the table. Keep it somewhere safe. You are training Naruto more than me, even if I would have liked it to be otherwise. You'll know when he will be ready for it. As you wish. Don't worry, I care for that knucklehead as much as you do. I'll make a great warrior out of him. Denkoku said with a smile. Yeah, well, don't overdo it, okay? The captain said with a smile, scratching the back of his head. Don't worry, you came quite strong out of it, haven't you? The old man replied. That was exactly why I was saying it. Minato said with a roll of his eyes. Well, I have to go. Naruto must have already eaten 30 bowls by now. and with that he left the house. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Ah Oto-san, when will you teach me the Hiraishin? Asked an excited Naruto, eating his 17th bowl. You're still too young for such a technique, Naru-chan. Your body is not strong enough for hockey. The little blonde pouted for a few seconds and then a large grin formed on his face. Then I'll train even harder, and you'll train me then. All right. That's a promise. And I never go back on my word? Nay, Naruto? Minato said with a smile. Yeah. Suddenly the door to the small restaurant slammed open and a marine officer ran toward the two blondes. Captain. We are under attack. 19 pirate ships are nearing the coast. What? Minato shouted. Why in heaven's name pirates were coming to Sitoka? That was ridiculous. There was nothing here. Oh God. The cargo, they were after the cargo? Damn it. Evacuate the village toward the mountain, quickly. Yes sir. The man said and ran away. Naruto, listen to me. The young captain said, turning toward his son. Go home as quickly as you can and find Denkoku Dono. Take some provisions and leave toward the mountain with the others. We will try and stop them from destroying the village, but knowing pirates, I'm not sure that they will show mercy. He turned toward the still gaping costumers in the restaurant and with a commanding voice spoke up. Leave the restaurant. Don't take time to take many things from your homes. Take only the essential. Leave, before it's too late. People began leaving hurriedly the building, pushing one another. Finally he looked back and saw his son still there, unmoving. Why are you still here? I said run. I will not leave you alone. I will fight with you. Naruto, this isn't a game. You are in danger here, and I don't know what I will do if I lose you. Don't make it harder for me, son. This is a mission I'm giving to you, as a captain to a future marine officer. I'm counting on you to protect and take care of the village. Now go, Minato said with an unflinching gaze. Naruto nodded and smiled a little. He approached his father and gave him a hug. Kick their asses, Oto-san, and with that he ran away. A grim look took place on the captain's face. Now was time to protect the island and make sure that his mission was a success. With a little burst of hockey, he disappeared and seconds later was at the harbor. Quickly going toward the captain's quarters on his ship, he took the Den Den Mushi and called the boss. Captain Namikaze. I'm listening. Sir, the island is under attack. 19 pirate ships are nearing the coast. We need assistance. Send backups. Assistance? Why? Are there not enough of you to deal with mere little bandits? The voice said slowly, as if enjoying tormenting the Namikaze. Isn't the great thunder god enough to stop an attack? Yes, sir. I may be a captain, but my crew and myself will not be enough to deal with 19 ships. We need backups. Minato cried out. Without speaking about the cargo, they discovered its contents somehow. There must be a leak in the marine. A leak, you say? You're mostly right, Captain. There is a leak, Okano said with a laugh. What? The world government wish you the best of luck, HNHNHAHAHAHA. And with that the connection was cut. With an angry cry, the captain launched the Den Den away and stormed of the room. Damn it all to hell. What in heaven's name was happening? Because he was sure that Okano was the leak, and it wasn't like hadn't made it oblivious. One thing was sure though, he had to protect the island from those pirates, and he had to make sure they didn't put their slimy hands on the cargo. With another burst of hockey, he disappeared from the sight and reappeared with a large wooden box in his hands. Months' worth of hard work were in that box. 23 incredible items that could grant their user inhuman powers. 23 devil fruits were sealed in it. The 23 fruits that the bastard Okano made them search through all the Grand Line. He couldn't let the pirates take them. The world didn't need any more dangerous people with destructive powers wreaking havoc. There was already enough. What could he do? Hide them somewhere? No, maybe destroy them. That could work, but that would mean that everything they've done during those 8 months was a waste of time and energy. Well, his crew would understand. Minato opened the wooden chest and looked at its content, 23 strange-looking fruits. With resignation, he drew his handmade 3-bladed dagger, and cut every fruit to pieces. Without a second thought, he threw them abroad and put down the box. Captain, they arrived. An officer said. Prepare the WT move, and make sure they don't discover it before time. The Namikaze said, with a hard look on his face. Yes sir, Well, then let's meet them. Not long after, one of the ships approached the harbor, letting the others behind, some hundreds yards away. It was immense, painted golden, and with a familiar Jolly Roger. One that hadn't been seen for a long time, a white skull with a golden mane and a steering wheel behind it. And once the ship was docked, a lone man stepped out, but that wasn't an ordinary man. He was massive, dressed in an orange, red and black robe, with a golden chain around his waist. He had a long orange striped coat. His long blonde hair was like a mane around his head, with the most peculiar thing about him being the half of a steering wheel encrusted in his head, and of course the two sabers he had instead of legs. The price to pay for his escape from Impelled Down. There stood Shiki, the Golden Lion, with a large grin, one of the most powerful pirates in the world, and the first and only pirate that escaped Impelled Down. To what do I owe the pleasure of seeing you here, Shiki, the Golden Lion? Asked Minato, with a raised eyebrow. After 2 years of complete silence, why show yourself now? Captain Namikaze, the Thunder God. It's nice to meet you, the pirate said with a little snicker, not answering the question. The feeling isn't mutual. OWW, how rude of you. What do you want? This little island has nothing important that may interest you. My sources said otherwise, Captain, Shiki said, making the Namikaze frown. And what did your sources said to you? That a little cargo will interest me. A certain box, with 23 items. The pirate said. You know what I mean? I'm not sure of understanding what you are talking about, Shiki. Your old age must be catching up to you. A box with 23 items that could interest a pirate of your caliber, here, on Sitoka Island. What nonsense. Don't try to fool me, boy. You weren't even born when I was crushing Marines under my feet, an irritated Shiki said. Feet, that you don't have anymore, Minato said with a smirk. Insolent brat. Give me the box that contains the 23 devil fruits, and I will leave without completely destroying this good-for-nothing island. The pirate exclaimed, getting angry despite his usually calm head. Then you can leave now, because I don't have the fruits anymore. What do you mean, you don't have them anymore? Shiki asked, even more annoyed than before. Well, I, sort of, destroyed the fruits before you arrived, Minato said, causing the pirate's eyes to widen. When I spotted your ships nearing, I instantaneously knew you were coming for them. How you discovered of their existence is a good question, though. Even if I have a major idea about who let escape such secret information. Why you destroyed them, 23 devil fruits. Are you out of your mind? The pirate cried out angrily. I prefer to destroy months' worth of work than to give it to you, Minato calmly said. Argg. Damn brat. You got me on this one. But don't worry, you will pay for it. I'll destroy the whole island, and everyone with it. I don't think so. And why so, little boy? Do you think you can stop me? A chuckling Shiki asked. I'm not a fool. I know that you're way out of my league. After all, Vice Admiral Garp and Head Admiral Sengoku had to fight together to stop you. Indeed. But I never said I wouldn't try though, Minato said, before disappearing in a burst of speed and appearing just before Shiki and delivering a jaw-shattering punch to the pirate's head. The said pirate was sent flying toward one of the houses, shattering its wall. A laugh could be heard from the rumbles, and an unharmed Shiki emerged from them. Not bad, brat. But you have to hit stronger if you hope to defeat me. Don't worry, it was just the beginning, Minato said with a serious face. I have a little advantage over my elders that fought you. Oh, and what is it? Your weakness, Minato said, making the pirate captain frown. Your power works only on things that you touch with your hands. And if I can be quicker than you and evade your hands, I will be able to stop you. But you have to have such a speed. I may not have a devil fruit power, but my prowess with the Busashoku Haki is close to unique. Only 3 know how to counter it, and you are not one of them. The Namikaze said, before putting his left leg behind and raising his right hand into a fist, toward Shiki. I will not let you destroy this island. Gee ha 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 ha. Well then, Captain. Come and get me, Shiki said, and with a wave of his hand, the earth to his right rose and was launched toward the blonde at high speed. With hardened eyes, Minato crouched, as if preparing to jump, and disappeared from view, escaping the attack, only to appear behind the pirate and deliver an extremely quick right hook to Shiki's head, making the older man fly toward now another house. When the golden lion emerged from the smoke, he had bruises all over his head, and an angry and incredulous look on his face. Shiki watched Minato's fists, to see them enveloped in a blue energy cloak. Was it what you were talking about, Namikaze? Not quite. That's just a move I created with the Haki, the Rasengan. I channel my energy around my fists, and make it rotate at an incredible rate. The power boost that the Haki gives its user is multiplied by 10, by the swirling motion of the attack. It can cut trough anything. And seeing as you are only slightly bruised after it, I can see why you were considered one of the strongest pirates of the era. I'm still one of them, you little brat, Shiki huffed. I'll admit, I underestimated you, you are strong. But the game ends here. And with that he touched the ground at his feet, and with a motion of his hand, large chunks of earth began tearing from the ground, destroying the vicinity. And with a wave of his right hand, the pirate sent everything at his disposition to the young marine captain, and not waiting for his attack to strike home, he began flying toward Minato with his hands outstretched. The Namikaze began destroying the rapidly approaching flying chunks with his fists, and when he was sure that Shiki was near enough to touch him, he disappeared with a burst of speed, escaping the pirate's grasp and making him hit the ground, by those creating a big explosion. With a sneer, the golden lion stood up from the large crater he created and took a little den mushi. Scarlet, begin the attack. Level this village to the ground, he said. All right, Shiki. Then he turned toward the captain that was on the roof of a house, 20 yards away. You are very quick. Your speed is remarkable, but once my boys begin destroying this island, with all the chinks of destroyed houses and ground flying around, under my control, you will be unable to dodge all of it. You may be quick, but you're not that quick. Shiki said with a smirk. And when I'll touch you, the fight will be over. And as if on cue, cannonballs began crashing on the village, destroying everything they touched. With a cry, Minato disappeared in a burst of speed, only to appear to Shiki's left. But the old pirate was waiting for that exact move, and when Minato was only inches from him, a long dagger emerged from the ground underneath him, and flied toward him at an even greater speed than the captain himself. The blonde's eyes widened, as he saw the weapon approach his torso in slow motion, then surprising the golden lion, Minato disappeared, but this time with a yellow flash. The captain appeared 200 yards away, breathing heavily. Damn it. That one was too close, he said, clutching his side, where blood was escaping from a cut. I shouldn't have underestimated his speed. I should have used the Hiraishin from the beginning. Damn me and my ego. Hey, that was remarkable, Captain. Shiki said, surprising the blonde that hadn't sensed him approach. You can move very quick after all. Play time is over. I will show you why I was called the Thunder God, the Namikaze cried out, over the noise the cannonballs destroying the village. Then Minato began running toward Shiki, and with a burst of speed he disappeared again, to reappear behind the pirate, and then he disappeared again to reappear to the pirate's side. He continued doing that for a little long, with each time going faster and faster, then of a sudden he vanished in a golden flash. Shiki wondered where he was, after not seeing him reappear, when his question was answered for him. By an explosion, some hundreds yards away, where his ships were. He could see the captain had completely cut through one of his ships, only to vanish again and reappear near a second ship, cutting it in half with his fist, like the previous. No. That couldn't be, could it? Thought the golden lion. No, no, no. He began flying toward his ships at a breakneck speed. He had to stop that fool from destroying his fleet. But it was to no avail, because when he arrived near enough, his last ship began sinking, like the others, with a large human-size hole on its lower part. Aarrgh! Shiki cried out. That brat! How could a mere captain of marines destroy his whole fleet, under his nose? He looked back to the island and then spotted the blonde reappear on the coast, on his knees. You will pay. The golden lion said before flying back toward the captain at an incredible speed, surpassing any that he showed before. Rising his hands forward, he made a large part of the island rise in the air, shadowing half of Sitoka, and with a thrust, made it fall forward, creating an unimaginable explosion that destroyed 3/4 of the said island, leaving only the little mountain intact. When he finally arrived, he saw that the blonde captain was crouching, his breath ragged, sweat running down his face, but with a little smirk that unnerved the pirate. "My crew specialization is suicidal missions," Minato said with a smirk. "And I think you can agree, after what you saw, that was quite suicidal, don't you think?" And seeing that the pirate wouldn't talk, he continued. "The codename of what you just saw is WT Move, but its real name is Hiraishin. And it was for that technique that I was called Thunder God." He continued with a laugh. "I wasn't able to protect the village from you, but you have to agree, you never thought you would loose your fleet in the weakest of seas, for the second time, have you? You are strong, kid. Very strong. Why you aren't a vice admiral is beyond me," Shiki said calmly, igniting the cigar in his mouth. "But now you are completely exhausted. And you wouldn't be able to repeat that technique of yours, I know it. And you know it too. Time has come for you to die, and I'm sorry to end the life of such a prodigious young man. But you have to pay for what you have done to me. I'm glad my son isn't here to see me die. It would be a shame," Minato said. "I'm ready, Shiki. Let's do it, one last attack." "I'm not asking for more," the Golden Lion said, and began raising in the air everything in his vicinity. Minato, as for himself, was pushing every ounce of his energy in his right hand, making his whole arm shine strongly in a white light. The Namikaze concentrated. His resolve was unbreakable. He would push at his limits and beyond to defeat Shiki, or he will die trying. His only regret was that he couldn't be there for Naruto. It was tearing his heart apart, knowing that his little blonde sunshine would become an orphan, losing once again a parent to pirates. Denkoku Dono would take care of him. He had promised it after all. But even knowing that his son would be in good hands, he couldn't throw away the growing need to abandon and flee the fight. No. No, he was a marine captain. He had to protect the world from pirates such as Shiki. He couldn't leave now. He had to protect them. He had to protect Naruto. With that, he disappeared from Sai as Shiki began flying toward him, unleashing hell on earth in front of him. And just when Minato's resolve was near unbreakable, a little distraction caused his shell to crumble in mere seconds. "Odo-san!" cried a voice from afar. And then there was a great explosion. When the smoke cleared, the sight was fearsome. There stood Shiki, the Golden Lion with a gaping hole in his shoulder, blood flowing rapidly out of it, the sword that was in his right hand, missing. Some feet away from him stood Namikaze Minato, the Thunder God, with the said sword in his chest, completely piercing through his heart. Blood dripping from his right hand, Shiki's blood, and blood flowing from his wound. Suddenly, his legs gave out and he fell to his knees. "No!" cried the same voice as before, at seeing the scene before his eyes. And suddenly a blond boy began running toward them, his speed augmenting with each step. Finally, when he was only some feet away from the pirate, he jumped in the air, launching his fist toward the Golden Lion. Who dodged the strike by jumping away. And that was a good thing, because when the boy touched the ground, he created a large crater, making spiderwebs around it. Seeing that the pirate had escaped his attack, he cried out, creating a massive shockwave that would have knocked out anyone under captain level of power. Shiki smirked. Haoshoku Haki. HN. The boy was really his father's son. Time to end his life. And with that he launched himself toward the boy, only for him to disappear, and seeing the surprised look on the boy's face before he disappeared, someone else had saved him. Minato sighed in relief. "Thank you Denkoku Dono," he thought with a smile. "A strong son you have here, Captain," the old pirate said. "He will be a fine entertainment, once he is older." "That is, if you survive this," the Marine captain said, coughing blood, before clasping his hands together. "What is it now?" Shiki asked, slowly walking toward the blonde, when suddenly his eyes widened in shock. He knew this move. "Escape." "This," Minato cried out, and in a blink of an eye, everything a mile around was caught in the blast of the most powerful explosion until now, leveling it to the ground. Taking the Marine Captain Namikaze Minato, the Thunder God's life along with Shiki, the Golden Lion. There was complete silence, until a slow sound of a metal scraping on the ground was heard. After what seemed like an eternity, but in reality was only a few seconds, Naruto finally felt the solid ground beneath his legs. And when he was sure that they wouldn't disappear again, he turned toward the old man, and with a killer-worth glare, approached him. "Bring me back," he cried out. "Bring me back to Odo-san. I have to help him." You can't do anything, the older man said, turning away. But you can. You're an ex-admiral. You have to help Odo-san. I can't. Why not? Exclaimed the little boy, getting angrier with every second. He is dead. He is dead, Naruto. Denkoku said, turning toward the blonde, with tears in his eyes. No. I don't believe you. Bring me back. Bring me back. The little Namikaze said, falling to his knees. No. His Odo-san. He couldn't be dead. He was the powerful thunder god. No one could have bested him. He couldn't be dead. Not now, not after he lost his Okawa-san at his very birth. No. Argg, he cried out. You could have helped him. If you had fought that pirate together, you would have won, and he wouldn't have. He wouldn't have died. We both would have died. I may have been an admiral at one time, but I'm old now. And Shiki, he is one of the most powerful pirates in the world. We wouldn't be able to win against him, and you would be left alone. With no one to watch after you. But I promised that I would protect you. I couldn't go fight that pirate alongside Minato. He made me promise. I couldn't let him down. You should have broken the promise. You should have tried, but you fled like a coward, the angry Naruto exclaimed. Shut up. Do you think it was easy for me to leave? Minato, his was like a son to me. I knew him since he was a mere little boy. I taught him all I knew. I protected him. I loved him. Do you think it was easy to leave him there? Without helping? I would have preferred to die alongside him. But I made a promise, and I never go back on my words? The young blonde hung his head, and he began sobbing. His father would have said that he was a little crybaby, that he should stop crying, that men don't cry. But he couldn't stop himself. He was a 7-year-old boy, not a man. Asterisk. With an exhausted sigh, Denkoku stuck his shovel in the ground to his right. Finally he was done. After a whole day, he was finally done. Just looking at his handiwork, he could feel tears coming to his eyes, but he shut them and tightened his fists. He would not cry. With another sigh, he walked a few steps and sat down on the ground, just in front of 2 graves. At the right, there was the one Minato had done for his wife, after she died. Namikaze Uzumaki Kushina. Just to its right, the one he had done himself, for his adopted son, Namikaze Minato, the thunder god. He sighed again. They had died too young. They didn't deserve to die at such a young age. The poor Naruto was still under shock of what happened. To lose the last remaining member of his family, before Hiei's eyes, was a terrible thing. He hadn't uttered a word since that day. Damn those pirates for doing such atrocious things, and damn the world government for letting it happen. Don't worry, Minato, I will make one hell of a warrior from Naruto. You'll be proud. The old ex-admiral said, before vanishing in a yellow flash from the top of the little mountain of Sitoka Island. The island that was no longer inhabited, all its villagers having left for a safer place. Asterisk. Hit harder. Harder. Denkoku cried out, to the young boy that was furiously punching a large rock. You can't even make a dent in it. Harder, I said. Arg. Naruto cried out, and began hitting the rock even harder, despite the unbearable pain in his fists, that were completely covered with his blood. The damn rock was still intact even after 1 hour of his furious punches. Any other 7-year-old boy would have given up a long time ago, but he wasn't one of them. He couldn't. In those 5 months with Denkoku, on the mountain of an unknown island in the East Blue, he learned to never give up, and to never turn away from a challenge. Right now, the old man had said that he had to destroy that rock with his bare hands, and he would be damned if he backed away. He will not stop, even if he would have to continue to punch the rock for a week. The old Kanahaza watched his little protege execute the exercise without questions, and smiled. The boy was remarkable, his drive was unstoppable. Then, he saw Naruto make a little dent in the rock, and a smirk forming on his young face, before he unleashed even more furious punches on it. Yes, he was doing fine. Asterisk. Slowly, a shadowy figure approached the bed with a young blonde boy in it, rising a knife in the air, and lowered his hand in a stabbing motion, when suddenly, the boy's cerulean eyes snapped open and he uttered a single word. Tekai. And on contact with the boy's skin, the knife broke in two. Not losing time, The blonde used his bed to roll backward and deliver a powerful kick to his assailant's face, making him stumble back. "Soru," the boy said, before disappearing from sight. A second later he appeared at the other end of the room, crouching horizontally on the wall, before jumping forward, using the wall to launch himself. And when he was halfway the distance, he made a motion with his legs, as if he was using the very air to accelerate, uttering a quiet "Geppo." The result was remarkable, as he was launched forward like a bullet with his right hand outstretched. The assailant smirked under his hood and prepared for the hit. When the young boy was only inches from him, in a remarkable show of speed, he took hold of the boy's outstretched hand and using his own velocity, launched him toward the wall. The said wall couldn't take on such an attack, so the outcome was logical. The boy literally flew through the wall, creating a large hole in it. The hooded figure emerged from the house through the door, and walked toward the boy, which was laying on his back, watching the sky with a frown. And before the assailant could utter a word, the boy spoke up. "I should have used the Rankyaku. Indeed, Naruto. You can't attack someone with a speed technique, without knowing if your speed is really greater than theirs," Denkoku said, lowering his hood. "Despite that mistake, the flow of your attacks was quite good." "Say, Denko Jiji, why don't you allow me to use the hockey?" the 10 years old asked standing up. "I already answered that many times, Naru-chan. You just said I wasn't ready, but you never explained why. It's better to learn the hockey after a certain age cap," the old man said, turning away. "After your 13th birthday, I'll start teaching it to you." "Age cap? What age cap? Come on Gigi. Shut up," the Kanahaza said, tapping the blonde on the head. "For that outburst, you'll do 100 laps around the mountain. And, without using the Rokushiki." "Damn." Naruto sighed and began slowly trotting away, mumbling something about crazy Gigis. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. A 13-years-old Naruto dodged a quick hook to his face by sidestepping, and jumped over the sweep that followed it. Not losing his momentum, he launched his own kick toward Denkoku's head, adding a great amount of hockey to it. The old man rose his left hand and countered the blow, but the force behind it actually made him slide several yards back. With a smirk, the blonde launched himself forward with a "Geppo," and when he was only a few feet from Denkoku, he surprised the ex-admiral by hitting the ground before him and splitting the ground under the old man, instead of trying to hit the man himself, making the said old man stumble. That was all Naruto needed, because the next instant, he disappeared with a "Soru," and delivered a powerful hockey-charged punch to Denkoku's stomach, making him slide a good 30 yards back, holding his wound in pain. Naruto smirked at his victory, but that was short-lived, because not a second later, his grandfather vanished from view. The blonde's eyes widened, and he cursed his stupidity and braced himself for the hit to come. And he hadn't to wait for long, because he was propelled backward after a quite painful punch to his face. And being unable to stop himself, he activated Tekai to reduce the damage, and it was a good thing he did, because the speed with which he hit the tree would have probably broken several of his ribs. Damn it. Again, the same mistake, Denkoku said, sitting on the branch of a tree a few yards away. If you want an advantage over your opponents, always be ready with Kenbanshoku Haki. You can't just use it for a few seconds, and then drop it. Let's continue. Bring it on, old man, Naruto exclaimed, before disappearing with Soru. Smart ass, Denkoku whispered, before vanishing himself. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. The both of them were seating outside the little house they had built from scraps, breathing heavily. They were completely exhausted after fighting the whole day. Naruto had finally began using the color of observation for a prolonged period of time, and triggering it was becoming easier. "Hey, Gigi." The blonde spoke up. "What is it, Naru-chan?" Can you bring me to Sitoka?" the Namikaze asked, still staring in the distance. Denkoku nodded, and stood up, followed by the boy, and after putting his right hand on Naruto's shoulder, they disappeared in a yellow flash. Once they touched the ground, the blonde walked forward and stooped before two tombs. His parents' tombs. It has been 6 years. 6 years since he hadn't put a foot on this island. He sighed and sat down, between the two graves. Oh, how he missed them. Words couldn't describe his feelings, but he was glad that he wasn't completely alone. And he would never thank Denko Jiji enough for all he had done for him. but still one thing was unaccomplished. A look of determination was set up on his face, as he took a three-bladed dagger from his jacket, the one his dad had made himself, and outstretched his left hand forward. "Okawa-san, Oto-san, I swear on your tombs," he began, and with a swift motion with the dagger, cut a large gash on his left hand, not showing any sign of pain. "That I will avenge you. I will not stop until those that took you away from me pay with their blood." Then he stood up and closed his eyes. "I will not let anyone repeat what happened on this island. Never again." And with that he turned around, and without looking back walked away. And after giving a nod to the old man, teacher and apprentice disappeared in yet another yellow flash. That day will mark the whole world. *******. A 15-year-old Naruto was sitting in the lotus position, meditating. Many things had changed since he left Sitoka Island. He now was 5 feet 6 inches feet, his blonde hair let loose stopping at his shoulders, his cerulean eyes were emotionless, his face was angular and handsome, having lost the baby fat. His body was lean and ripples of muscles could be seen under his tight shirt. But most of all, he had matured mentally. He was very serious and cunning, and every opponent would be taken with same extreme caution. Underestimating opponents could only lead to defeat. And he will not be beaten, he'll make sure of it. He had mastered all the 7 Rokushiki techniques and the Kenbunshoku and Busashoku haki. The Haoshoku haki was harder to control, he could only unleash a wave of it around him. Concentrating it in one point was too hard, even if he never stopped trying. Denko Jiji couldn't help him on this one. The Haoshoku haki was quite rare, to say the last. Well, he had to find it by himself. Suddenly he sensed a presence, a very well-cancelled presence, but he could still sense it nonetheless. "What is it, Jiji?" the young man asked, without opening his eyes. "Come, I have things to show you," Denkoku said, and without waiting for an answer walked away. That surprised the young blonde, because his gramps would always compliment his good use of the Kenbunshoku haki, and for him to walk away without even waiting for a reply was even stranger. Whatever it was, that matter was serious. Naruto stood up and walked back to their house. When he entered the living room, he saw Denkoku seated behind the dining table, some items spread on the said table. Without saying a thing, the blonde sat down across the old man, and waited for him to begin. Finally the ex-admiral began. "I know who is responsible for the attack on Sitoka, 8 years ago," he said, making Naruto frown in confusion. "I knew it since your 11th birthday, but saying it at the time would have been useless," he continued. "What do you mean, responsible? That golden lion bastard was the one that destroyed the island." "That may be true, but you don't know the whole story." The old man continued. "The mission Minato was sent to was, to retrieve 23 devil's fruits," he said, making the blonde's eyes go wide. "After 8 months, your father's crew found the last one of them and began returning toward Marineford. But during their way back, the man that sent them on this very mission, called them and informed them that they have to return to Sitoka Island, and wait there with the cargo, saying that his men will come to retrieve it. But they never came. Instead, Shiki attacked the island." Naruto whispered, not believing what he was hearing. Do you mean, that man? The one that sent them on the mission, was working with Shiki? Probably. But, why? The young man asked. "I think, he wanted Shiki to have those fruits. I don't really know why. God alone can know what was going on in the twisted minds of those working in the world government," Denkoku said with disgust. "But Shiki didn't get them, did he?" "No. Your father destroyed them before Shiki arrived." "You said you know who that man is. Who is he?" the Namikaze asked, a dangerous glint appearing in his eyes. "His name is Joishiro Okano. He works in the world government. He is one of the dogs under the command of the Tenryubito," explained the old man. "The world government, you say?" the blonde whispered, dangerously. "Naruto, don't act on anger. Think deeply about what you want to do. You know perfectly well, that the moment you said that this man was responsible for my father's death, his fate was sealed." The young man snapped back. "You promised to not stop me, once the time came." "Well, the time has come," Naruto replied, standing up. He began pacing in the living room when suddenly he stopped dead. "So that was the reason you said that I didn't need more than being a vice captain," stated the blonde. You had said that every vice captain had a special duty. That once in a while the fleet admiral would assign a vice captain to guard a member of the world government. Naruto laughed a mirthless laugh, and a predatory smirk formed on his face. You knew from the beginning. You old bastard. The same smirk appeared on Denkoku's face, as he nodded. Well, then I have a double reason to become a marine, the Namikaze said. What else? I will teach you the Hiraishin, the ex-admiral simply stated, causing the blonde's smirk to widen. Finally. Sit down, that will take time, the old man said, to which the young man nodded and complied. As you know, the Hiraishin is a space-time traveling technique. Your father discovered it by accident, to say the truth, when he was using the Busashoku Haki to boost his speed. You already know how good he was with the Haki, so it was no surprise when the speed at which he could move got greater and greater. Well, one of those days, his speed surpassed every law of physics, and he entered a pseudo-space-time where everything was frozen apart from him. The problem was that he couldn't control where he was going or how much time he reminded in that space-time. So every time, he was found completely exhausted in many different places. Not only a mile or two away, no, sometimes he wound up on another islands, or worse in the ocean. Anyway, I advised him to see someone knowledgeable. And as I advised, he asked Vegapunk for help. The scientist accepted of course, having discovered something new. He, along with Minato, created a little special device, that allowed Minato to guide his energy toward that device when he was in the space-time. Vegapunk created thousands of those things, but your father made him promise to not reveal the secret of his now newly named Hiraishin. A promise that he still keeps. Denkoku explained, and opened one of the wooden boxes on the table, showing its contents. Naruto took one of them and watched it closely. It looked like a little chip, with NM, engraved in it. NM. Like Namikaze Minato? The blonde asked, to which the old man nodded. Well, let's go then. You have to teach it to me. I'm not completely done. Denkoku said, making Naruto sit down again. Your father gave me another thing, that he wanted you to have. He continued, showing the second wooden chest. The young Namikaze opened the chest and saw a fruit. No. He whispered. It is, Naruto. A devil fruit. The blonde continued, mesmerized by the strange item. The Suchi no mi. Denkoku said. You don't have to eat it now, or ever. Minato wanted you to have it, but he was actually given that fruit by an old woman when he was on mission. It is your choice alone, Naruto. But don't forget the price to pay. The ex-admiral said before standing and leaving the room. The blonde took the strange pear-shaped brown fruit in his hand and watched it closely. It had strange greenish swirl-like motifs. So, you can grant me even more power, but would make me unable to swim. A devil fruit indeed. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. So, how are we going to Marineford? Asked Naruto, zipping his rucksack. Hiraishin. Simply stated his grandfather. You're becoming more and more lazy with years, Gigi. I think your old age is really catching up on you. The blonde said with a smirk, before bending his head to the left, and easily evading the bottle that was launched his way. Shut up, Gaki. I can still kick your sorry ass. HM. Laughed the Namikaze. But we're not going to Marineford. Where then? I want to visit an old friend of mine. Denkoku answered. That's fine with me. I'm not really in a rush. All right then. Let's go. The ex-admiral said, putting a bag over his shoulders. Naruto looked around the house for the last time, and a small smile formed on his face. This would be his last time on this island. The island where Denkoku made a warrior out of him. Turning away, the blonde took a hold of his grandfather's shoulder, and they disappeared in a yellow flash. After they left the space-time, the Namikaze looked around him and rose an eyebrow. He silently followed the older man, but couldn't resist to speak after a few seconds. What the hell? We are in a freaking windmill country, or what? Well, actually we are in the windmill village, Fushia. Denkoku answered with a smile, causing Naruto's eyes to twitch. Then shaking his head, he continued to walk. After a while of walking, the old man stopped. We are in the right place, he said. Huh? Party's bar? The blonde asked. My friend said that he will meet us here. The ex-admiral said, entering the little bar, his grandson closely following. The place was quite full, meaning that the bar was famous in the village, or was the only one. Naruto would more likely go for the latter. After they were seated at the bar, the bartender, a young woman with dark green hair, maybe a few years his senior, approached them. "What would you like, sirs?" she asked. "Sake," simply answered Denkoku, to what she nodded and turned toward the mysterious blonde. Naruto, for his part sensing the young woman's gaze, turned toward her, very slowly, and began staring her in the eyes, without making a sound. The bartender seemed curious and held the stare. They stayed that way for a couple of seconds, then Naruto finally smirked, making the young woman blush and turn away. "A chop of beer will do," the blonde said, the smirk still adorning his face, and with a short, "Hi," the green-haired bartender walked away. Catching the amused expression on his grandfather's face, Naruto's smirk only widened. A minute later, she was back with their commands and disposed it before them. Without losing time, the ex-admiral began drinking his sake, and Naruto, following his example, took some gulps of his beer. It tasted quite good, to say the truth. The bartender approached and sat across from them, making Naruto raise his eyebrow. "You're nor from here. It's the first time I'm seeing you," she said, answering their silent question. "What got you so far in the East Blue?" she continued, kindly. "We are here to see an old friend of mine," Denkoku answered. "Hey, Makino-chan. Will you go out with me?" cried a man with a bottle in his hand across the bar, toward the bartender. The said woman turned in his direction, rolling her eyes. "I'm sorry, but no, Ginjo," she answered. "Oh man. That was the 108th time she said no," exclaimed another man. "Poor Ginjo," said another one, tapping comfortingly the Ginjo fellow on his back. When Makino returned her gaze toward the two strangers, she saw the blonde watching her, a charming smile adorning his face. The green-haired bartender blushed for the second time and turned away. "Who is this friend of yours?" she asked, after recomposing herself. Denkoku opened his mouth to answer, but stopped and a smile appeared on his face, and as to answer the confusion on the young woman's face, the door to the bar opened and a massive muscular old man, wearing a suit, entered. "I can see you are still your punctual self," the ex-admiral said, without even looking at the new person. "Wahahaha. You know me too well," the new man said, taking a seat to their left. "Makino-chan, sake please," to what she nodded and left for the command. "Naruto, I present you Vice Admiral Monkey D. Garp, the hero of Marines, and an old friend of mine," the ex-admiral said. "So this is your grandson, Denkoku?" asked Garp, outstretching his hand toward the blonde, which shook it in a vice-like grip, surprising the vice-admiral. "Namikaze Naruto," the young man said. "It's an honor to meet you, Vice-Admiral," making the old man nod. "So, what is the favor you talked about?" asked Garp, taking a sip of the sake that Makino disposed in front of him. "Naruto will be joining the Marines," the Kanahaza answered. "I want for you to watch over him in Marineford." "Well, I can do that," the Vice-Admiral said. "But what is your goal?" he asked, turning toward the blonde. "To protect the world from those that wants to disturb the peace," truthfully answered Naruto. "Wahaha. A noble goal indeed," exclaimed Garp. "Wish my grandkids would be like you," he continued, with a sigh. "But no, they wanted to become pirates." "Well, my old friend, time has come for us to leave," Denkoku said. "So soon?" asked the Vice-Admiral. "I thought you would rest here for a few days before leaving," he continued. "I'm sure the trip from wherever you came to here was exhausting," he finished, making Denkoku laugh. "Don't worry about that, old man," the ex-admiral said. "You're the one to talk," Garp responded, with a smirk. Then they stared at each other for a few seconds, as if silently talking between themselves, and the vice-admiral nodded. "Let's go, Naruto." The young Namikaze nodded and approached the Ginjo fellow, making the bartender raise an eyebrow. "Never give up, and never back down from a challenge," he said to the man, making a new determination shine in his eyes. With that he put his bag on his back and smiled, a real smile toward the green-haired woman, making her smile in return. And without further ado, he left the bar and began waking away, catching with Denkoku. But only after a few steps, he could hear the brouhaha in the bar. "Hey, Makino-chan. Will you go out with me?" I'm sorry, but no, Ginjo. Oh man. That was the 109th. Naruto smiled and a second later, he disappeared along with his grandfather. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. So, that's Marineford. The Namikaze stated with awe. Denkoku stopped before the main doors and faced the blonde. I will leave you here, Naruto. You'll find your way easily enough. The ex-admiral said, to which the young man nodded. Use the chips and place them in strategic points. I took 100 of them myself. Your father had already put some in here, but having more will not hurt. Then, he sighed and approached the blonde, taking him in a hug. Be careful, Naru-chan. The hard stuff is just beginning. Don't lose your cool, and never jump in a fight without thinking. The ex-admiral said, making the young man nod. Make your parents proud. He finished, letting go of Naruto. Turning away, he began walking away, when the Namikaze called him out. Hey Denko Gigi, where will you go? Water 7. The old man answered without turning around. Good luck. And with that, Kanahaza Denkoku, ex-admiral of the Marine, disappeared in a yellow flash. Naruto turned toward the main doors and began walking toward Marineford. Well, Dad. I'm a step closer to the goal. A blond man wearing a completely black suit, with a blue tie and a white marine coat overall, with Justice written on its back, was walking through the streets of Marineford. His walk was casual but with an air of confidence. People of lower rank acknowledged his presence by a quick salute, to which he nodded. And once he arrived to the main building of the Marine quarters, he vanished in a burst of speed, only to reappear on the roof of the said building, the highest point of Marineford. Without further ado, he lied comfortably on the roof and closed his eyes. It was his favorite spot. Here he could lie down and relax without being disturbed, or even hide from his subordinates or chiefs when they were annoying him. He smiled. Finally he was close. After years of hard working, he was another step closer to his goal. Soon, those bastards would pay. Suddenly he sensed a presence, but relaxed after discovering who that was. What are you going to do? The newcomer asked. Well, nothing. What should I be doing, Hina-chan? The blonde answered without opening his eyes. You know perfectly well about what Hina is talking about, the pink-haired woman exclaimed, exasperated. You are preparing something big. To say the truth, I'm waiting, the man answered simply. What are you waiting? You never liked to sit down without doing something, Naruto-kun, Hina stated with a frown. Oh, but I still don't like to wait. I'm waiting the signal, that's all. What signal? Hina is confused. I may have discovered Shiki's lair, the blonde said, causing the woman's eyes to widen. That world government dog can wait for a little longer, he will not disappear. But Shiki, he is a sneaky bastard. No one heard from him for a decade. He can be really patient, but so can I. So where is he? He had made his HQ on an island that he made fly with his devil fruit's powers. I still don't know its exact location. It's not very easy to find a sky island in the Grand Line, Naruto said. Do you think he is in the Grand Line? Of course. Gigi always said that man couldn't stand the weak seas. No, his HQ could be only in the Grand Line. The blonde explained. And once I get the exact location. Hina doesn't like the idea of you going alone. What is it? Are you worried about little old me, Hina-chan? Naruto said with a smirk, standing up. Of course Hina is worried, you idiot, she exclaimed. Hina will have too much work if you die, she added with a smirk of her own, making Naruto face fault. Thank you. I feel so loved, the blonde exclaimed, with a hurt expression on his face and his right hand on his heart. But then he stopped his theatrics and he became serious. It is my personal duty to stop him, no one's else. And even if I wanted to take you with me, it would cause only complications. Naruto explained. I will not even let my crew come with me. With you or them on the battlefield, I wouldn't be able to focus on Shiki and go all out, being afraid to hurt you. No, I will do it alone. The pink-haired captain tightened her fists but said nothing. She knew he was right. She would only get in his way. It was hard to accept, but she knew it was the truth. They may be both captains, but the power gap between them was immense. She was a Marine captain, and he was a Titan. No one had really seen the extent of his powers apart from her, of course, and maybe a certain admiral. In the 10 years Naruto was in the Marines, He had done everything to rise through the ranks at an alarming rate. Because passing from seaman recruit to captain in 10 years was close to impossible, he practically rose a grade every year. He was considered a genius. But still, she was the only other person apart his grandfather that knew of his real power, and many of his other secrets. He had faith in her, and she would be damned before she betrayed his trust. But even knowing all that, didn't mean it was easy to accept. She felt completely useless, and that feeling wasn't a nice one. With a sigh, she drew a cigarette from her suit and put it in her mouth. With her right hand she took the lighter in hand and approached it to the cancer stick, switching it. But before the flame could ignite the cigarette, she sensed a slight breeze that put out the fire, and not a second later Naruto's hand was holding her right hand, preventing her from resuming her previous action. "I don't like it when you smoke, Hina-chan," he said, staring at her eyes. She in return stared at him, and they stayed that way for a few seconds. Finally she admitted defeat and let him take the cigarette from her mouth, which the blonde threw away without hesitation. "One day I'm seriously going to kick Smoker's ass for being such a bad influence on you," the Namikaze said, with an exasperated smile, to which the pink-haired captain giggled. Naruto then turned away and stared in the distance. A few moments later, Hina stood at his side and did the same. He hadn't changed one bit since their first meeting, 10 years ago. #FLASHBACK#. It was already a week since Naruto had integrated the Marine Academy, and he knew absolutely no one. Well, he wasn't here to make friends, so that didn't really matter. In the past week he had learned a lot about the hierarchy in the Marines and the word government. It was already a good start. Right now he was sitting on a bench with many books in his rucksack to his right, reading one of them. Laws. Word Government Edition. When suddenly a young man with gray hair sat down at his left. He was quite muscular and wore a white and blue marine jacket, blue jeans and military boots. He was smoking 2 cigars and the smoke from them began rapidly spreading around him. Naruto frowned, and without turning his eyes away from the book, he spoke up. "Excuse me, but could you take another seat or put off the cigar? I'm not very fond of cigarette smoke." The man didn't even acknowledge the blonde's presence, as if he wasn't even here. And if there was one thing Naruto hated more than pirates, it was to be ignored. The Namikaze slowly closed the book and turned toward the gray-haired man. He looked close to being 20-something. But age mattered rarely in those situations. "I asked kindly enough. What should I do now? Move you myself?" the blonde asked in a very calm voice. The said man, that was leaning his head back until now, raised an eyebrow, and after seeing Naruto's age, chuckled, and returned to his previous state. People that were close enough to hear their conversation were looking at the Namikaze like he was crazy. Naruto, for his part, was fuming inside, but his still perfectly calm facade was on his face, betraying nothing. That man? Who did he think he was? Just because he was older, looked like had some fighting capacities, and had some sense of style, he thought he was better than others. He needed to be taught some manners. Naruto suddenly stood up, and doing a 180 turn on his left foot, gave a powerful kick to the bench, making it slide a dozen yards back, with the man still on it. People began stopping what they were doing to watch what was happening, and those that were there since the beginning were smiling with glee, knowing perfectly well what was going to happen. The blonde folded his arms on his chest and stared at the gray-haired man. The said man stood up, with the same lazy attitude, and stared back. "Do you know who I am?" the man finally asked, with a smirk. "Should I?" the blonde threw back, causing some people to shake their heads. "He is Lieutenant Smoker, you fool," cried out a man. "Really? Well, that still doesn't change anything," Naruto said, and observed as the gray-haired man began walking slowly toward him. His walk was confident, showing that he wasn't afraid of being hit or attacked from any direction. That could mean that he had eaten a devil fruit, and its powers made him intangible or insensitive to hits. So, he may be a Paramecia or Logia user. Secondly, his steps were heavy, which was different from people that had mastered the speed techniques. So, he probably wasn't very quick. And finally his arrogant expression. That could mean that he wasn't used to being beaten. Too easy. "Do you hope to beat me, kid?" Smoker asked, the smirk still present. "Hope? Who ever talked about hoping? I'm going to sweep the floor with you," Naruto replied. "I didn't want it to take such scales, but people like you have to be put in their places." "Ha ha ha. You can't even hit me, kid. I'm Smoke, and you can't hit Smoke. So he was a Logia type? Well, the more humiliation the better. One of a sudden, Naruto disappeared from sight in a remarkable show of speed, only to reappear in front of Smoker. Without wasting a second, he delivered a powerful punch to the lieutenant's face, sending him 30 yards back and crashing in trash can, surprising everyone around them. Say that again. The more surprised of course was Smoker himself, as he stood up and wiped the blood from his cracked lips, and nursed his sore jaw. How that little bastard managed to hit him. He was a Logia type for heaven's sake. Wait. HN. So the kid could use hockey. And the speed at which he attacked was more than impressive. Damn him. He wouldn't be able to win against a hockey user that was faster than him, and maybe even stronger. How that little punk could have so much power. White blow. The lieutenant cried out as he extended his hands forward. Instantaneously both his fists were launched toward the blonde at high speed, Smoke following them. Naruto for his part only blurred from sight, easily escaping the attack, to reappear behind the gray-haired man and delivering a quick kick to his back that sent Smoker some yards forward. The lieutenant rapidly stood up, adorning a new bruise on his face, and launched another attack. White out. Suddenly clouds of smoke began escaping his hands and began rapidly flying toward Naruto, in seconds engulfing him entirely. Then with a motion of his hands, Smoker began condensing his smoke in hopes to ensnare the little brat. But it was like the blonde's body was made of stone. Whatever he tried, he couldn't manipulate the boy's body. That was getting annoying. White spark. He cried out as he turned his entire body into smoke and began charging his opponent at high speed. And when he was only inches from the blonde, he launched his hand in a punching motion, but just before hitting the target, a hand appeared from the smoke and caught his fist in a vice grip. And before Smoker knew it, he was sent 40 yards back by a very painful punch to his jaw. After hitting the wall, he dissipated into smoke, and reformed his body after some seconds. Again the blonde blurred from sight, and not a second later, he appeared at the lieutenant's side, with one hand on his shoulder, painfully squeezing it. Smoker tried to dissipate, but couldn't. It was like his powers weren't responding. Like when he was touched by seawater. I'm sure you're regretting your arrogance right now, aren't you, Lieutenant Smoker? The blonde whispered. I can continue with my threat and lower your esteem by several notches. But I don't really feel the need to attract too much attention to my little self, having arrived only a week ago. Then, the Namikaze released his grip and began walking back toward his rucksack. As you can see, relying too much on your devil fruit powers isn't very wise. Be careful in the future. He launched back, without turning around. As he was putting his books back in the bag, he could hear the discussion around him. Whoa! Have you seen that? He was able to land kicks on a Logia type? I can't believe Lieutenant Smoker let him go off the hook like that. Who in the hell is that guy? I don't know, but I sure as hell will discover. Naruto sighed and put the rucksack on his back. So much for not getting attention. He should be more careful in the future. Starting a fight with a higher-ranked Marine wasn't very wise. Finally, when he was a good 100 yards away from the others, he was stopped by a young woman. She had long pink hair that were reaching down her back. She was tall and slim, and quite frankly, she was gorgeous. Hina is impressed, she said, making the blonde raise an eyebrow. It's the first time Hina sees someone land a hit on Smoker-kun. Smoker-kun. Well, the lieutenant isn't very well-mannered, to say the last, the blonde said. And you are? Hina. She simply answered. Naruto rolled his eyes, as if it wasn't obvious. I was talking about your rank, he explained, as if talking to a child. Lieutenant. She answered, causing the blonde to cringe. Damn it. The next time someone talked to him, he would ask for their grade before starting the conversation. Seeing his expression, the pink-haired young woman giggled. Hina finds you amusing, she said, to which he rolled his eyes. Finally, after a few silent seconds, she spoke anew. Why are you reading so much? Seaman recruits rarely go to the library. Hold your friends close, but your enemies closer, simply answered Naruto, before walking away. #FLASHBACK and hash. She smiled at the memory, and turned toward the blonde. How will you leave Marineford? Sengoku Dono will never let a captain go after a pirate of Shiki's caliber, she asked. Oh, but he will not know it until it's too late to stop me. Wait 5 days after my depart and tell him where I went, the Namikaze said. And if he finds your absence strange sooner than 5 days and convokes Hina, the pink-haired captain asked. In that case, you play the blank card. Deny any knowledge about my absence, the young man answered. Hina understands, but still doesn't agree with your choice. Well, what can I say? It's hard to please you, Naruto said with a large smirk. Idiot. Where is Smoker anyway? Smoker-kun is on the base in Logatown, Hina answered. Oh my. That's quite far from here. He must have annoyed Sengoku somehow, the blonde said, a large grin adorning his face, to which the young woman smiled. Oh, I think it's for me, Naruto said, making Hina frown, and as if to answer her mute question, a man appeared on the roof in a burst of speed. He had black short hair, brown eyes and a golden earring in his left ear. He was of the same age as Naruto himself, notably 25 years old. He wore a red suit with the white marine coat over his shoulders. His name was Senko Gyo, and he was the vice captain of Naruto's crew, the Shunji Hokaku Buntai. Captain. Good news, the man exclaimed, then seeing the presence of the pink-haired woman, he bowed his head, Captain Hina. And after seeing Naruto nod, Senko continued. We discovered the exact location. It's not very far from Sandy Island. Perfect, off we go then, the blonde said, clapping his hands together. Then turning toward Hina he spoke again. You know what to do, to which she nodded. Good luck. And don't die, or Hina would be very mad. The blonde disappeared from sight and appeared behind the woman captain, giving her a hug. Don't worry, Hina-chan, Naruto exclaimed. Then letting go of her he walked toward his subordinate, which was watching him with rapidly blinking eyes. Don't look at me owlishly, do you want me to kick your ass? No, sir, the dark-haired man exclaimed, causing Naruto to roll his eyes. Shut up, the blonde said, putting a hand on Senko's shoulder, before they disappeared in a yellow flash. Hina shook her head with a small smile adorning her beautiful face as she calmly walked away from the roof. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Naruto and Senko appeared on a marine ship a second later. His ship. People were busily running in every direction, preparing for their imminent depart. And when they saw the captain and vice captain appear, everyone stopped what they were doing to salute the Namikaze. Captain Namikaze, they cried out in chorus. So gentlemen, ready to go? He asked in a cheerful voice. All is ready, Captain, we can leave at your notice, said a short, brown-haired young man, approaching the blonde. Perfect. Then give the signal Hentaro, the Namikaze said to the man. Oi! Raise the anchor, we're leaving, Naruto smiled as he watched his subordinates. He was really the captain. He had after all chosen every one of them one by one. After Sengoku made him captain 3 years ago, the Namikaze proposed to the fleet admiral a new idea. Create a special crew which main role would be to capture criminals in the whole world. A special unit that would be quick and effective in its work. And being the Ogenshoku Kisai, Golden Prodigy, that proposal was easily accepted by the world government. So without losing time, he chose promising youngsters from the Marine Academy or from others not important crews, trained them and created the Shunji Hokaku Buntai, or Instantaneous Capture Squad. That name was given to them by the odd seaman recruits, for their very high rate of instant captures of pirate crews. The Shunji Hokaku became famous very quickly, placing them as the most feared marine crew. Their methods very not hidden. They were quick, ruthless and very effective. But they had one golden rule imposed by their captain. Never kill if you can capture. That was their motto. And in the last 2 years, 40% of prisoners that were sent to impel down were caught by the Shunji Hokaku Buntai. But even they would not come with him on Shiki's HQ. They were strong and their teamwork was perfect, but they weren't strong enough for Shiki. Without speaking about the problems that would cause. If they came with him, he wouldn't be able to go all out and destroy that bastard's base. No better go alone. Suddenly he was cut from his musings by a voice, Captain. What is it, Dina-chan? The blonde asked the only female marine on his crew. She was of medium height with a beautiful face, had mid-back long crimson hair, yellowish eyes that were covered by rectangular glasses, 2 pearl earrings on each ear. She wore grayish tight jeans that went to her knees, a white blazer, unbuttoned at the top, showing her impressive cleavage, high-heeled black shoes, and had a large leather belt that lazily hung on her waist to which were attached two sheathed daggers made from sea stone. She was the second fastest member of the Shunji Hokaku, after Naruto and Senko, and was the fastest blade in Marineford. Are you still adamant on going alone? Yes. And whatever you say or do, you can't make me change my mind, the blonde said, still watching the horizon. Well, maybe unless if you get in your undies and dance the cha-cha-cha for me. Naruto continued, turning toward her with a mischievous smile on his face. He was so certain that his idea would irk her again and that she would try to cut him, that at seeing her unbutton one button of her blazer, his eyes widened. Dina. I was joking, he exclaimed, not believing his eyes. He sighed as he approached the red-haired young woman. In normal cases, she would try to cut him with one of her daggers, after he launched one of his ridiculous ideas, but seeing that she was ready to accept one of them, well, something wasn't right. What is it? He asked her. Take us with you. You can't just walk in a highly protected base alone. You think you can fight Shiki's entire army, and then fight the Golden Lion himself? Are you insane? The woman cried out, her accumulated worries making her even angrier. I can't take the risk of all of you getting hurt, he simply stated, gazing at her. But we are ready. Were all those years you trained us for nothing? We are ready? It's not a matter of you being ready or not. This time it's not like the missions we took to capture pirates. This time, I'm going there, to kill. Shiki already escaped impelled down. That place wouldn't be able to hold him anymore. And even if it could, my vow will not allow me to let him live. I vowed to kill him, and I will. Naruto said with a dark look. I'm going alone, end of discussion. And with that he turned around and walked toward his personal quarters. The red-haired woman stood there, unmoving, with the rest of the crew around her, having seen the whole exchange. Suddenly on them spoke up. Hey Dina-chan, if you're still okay for the dance, I'm more than ready, Hentaro said with a goofy grin on his face. To answer his proposal, she slowly buttoned up her blazer, and vanished in a burst of speed. A second later, the short young brown-haired man was sent flying abroad with a cry of pain. Without giving anyone a second glance, Dina walked away. That's when the rest reacted. Damn it! He is a devil fruits user, cried one man. Quick! We have to save that idiot, cried out another, before a pair jumped in the ocean to save their unfortunate crewmate. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Damn it, it was only 3 days since Naruto-kun had left Marineford, and Sengoku Dono had already remarked his absence, and now Hina was called in his office. The pink-haired woman entered the office of the Fleet Admiral after an enter and walked toward his table. You called Hina, Sengoku Dono? She asked, looking around the room. There were Admiral Akainu and Admiral Kizaru, along with Vice Admiral Garp. What were 3 elites of Marineford doing here? Naruto's absence couldn't be that serious, could it? I remarked that Captain Namikaze was missing, and I don't remember him asking me to go on another mission to hunt criminals. So that could mean only one thing. He left to do something in secrecy, and I believe you could enlighten us on this matter, Captain Hina. The Fleet Admiral said, crossing his arms on his chest. Why do you think Hina will know of his bearings? The captain asked, a frown marring her beautiful features. It is not a secret that you are a great friend of his, answered Sengoku. If someone knows where he disappeared, it would be you. The pink-haired woman narrowed her eyes and stared at the Fleet Admiral. The man held her gaze in return. Finally, she spoke again. Hina knows nothing about his disappearance, she said without blinking. Arg. That brat and his too loyal friend are going to drive me insane, Sengoku cried out. Oh, but I thought you were already insane. Wahahaha, exclaimed the Vice Admiral. Garp. Wahahaha. I may have an idea, suddenly spoke up Akainu, causing everyone in the room to turn toward him in surprise. After one of our spars, he spoke about finally having found a good trail. And it's not a secret that he wants to kill Shiki the Golden Lion, since that day he attacked Sitoka Island, explained the Admiral. Oh my. Youngsters those days seek 2 dangerous things, Admiral Kizaru stated. Why would he want to go there alone, if he had really found Shiki's lair? Sengoku asked. Because he wants to be the one that kills him, answered Garp, all sign of amusement erased from his now serious face. He still wants to avenge his father's death. Damn him. He is a mere captain. To fight against Shiki is a death wish, the fleet admiral exclaimed. You know perfectly well that he is much more powerful than a mere captain, Akainu remarked. He had trained the young man himself for a period of time, helping him to control the power of his devil fruit. And he, of course, knew of what Namikaze Naruto was capable of. Akainu, Kizaru, take 2 ships and go after him, Sengoku ordered. We will never catch them in time. They have 3 days of advance on us, Borsellino stated, shaking his head in a lazy manner. I'm not asking you to stop him. That's a bit too late now. No, you will be his backup, the chief continued. My, we can never have a quiet moment with that man around, the sunglasses-wearing admiral stated, and turning around he began leaving, but suddenly he stopped. Hey Sengoku, you never said where that lair of his was. Indeed. Sengoku agreed, turning toward the only captain in the room. Where it is? He asked. Hina doesn't know, she answered, making Admiral Akainu shake his head, and Sengoku hit the desk out of anger. They will drive me insane. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Someone toqued on his door as he was reading a book about the new world. Enter, he said calmly. The door opened and Senko entered the captain's quarters. Captain, we have arrived. We can even see the flying island from here, his second-in-command explained. Perfect, Naruto said. He stood up and, putting his marine coat over his shoulders, left the room, closely followed by the vice-captain. The Namikaze stood up on the deck and looked around. Indeed, the island Mervell could be seen hovering miles high over the ocean. That brought a feral smirk to the captain's face. Finally he turned around and faced his crew, that were waiting for his commands. Gentlemen, it is here that I leave you, Naruto began. From here, take Cap toward Drum Island and wait there for me. I surely will, Flash, toward the ship after I'm finished. Yes, Captain, his crew chorused. Without further ado, he jumped on the railing and closed his eyes. And a few seconds later an earth column rose from the ocean. The blonde jumped upon it, and giving a last quick salute to his subordinates, he willed the earth to move. Instantaneously, the pillar began rising at a high speed, and soon enough he was no more than a little dot to the marine crew. Once the pillar was some hundreds yards higher than the flying island, Naruto jumped from it with a powerfully enhanced hockey jump toward Mervell. After mere seconds he began gaining more and more speed at his free fall, and when he finally landed on the island's ground, he created a great shock wave that made everything in the vicinity tremble, rising a great amount of dust. Once the dust was settled, one could see Naruto inside a giant crater, sweeping the dust off of his suit. Then looking around, he began walking toward the castle that was visible in the distance. That must be Shiki's HQ. HM. Perfect. Then, he vanished in a burst of speed. After he had made some miles in the island, he began sensing presences. A mass of them. Like a village? And soon, he discovered that he was right. Indeed, just before him stood a small village, but a village nonetheless. Damn it, now, that was making his work even harder. What in heaven's name was an entire village doing on the island Shiki used as his HQ? Damn it. Now he couldn't destroy the entire island as he had hoped. Whatever his grudge against Shiki was, he couldn't destroy a village, like that bastard had done. No, he had vowed that he would protect the world from that sort of things. With a sigh he began walking toward the village, when he sensed something approaching rapidly. And not a second later a giant panda-like bear jumped at him, with something akin to intelligence in his eyes? Without batting an eyelash, Naruto continued on his route, and just as the bear was going to tear him in two with his razor-like claws, an earth fist emerged from the ground and delivered a skull-shattering punch to the animal. The bear was rapidly sent backward, and when he hit the hard ground, he was already dead. When the marine captain was close enough to the village, he narrowed his eyes. Some sort of trees were contouring the village, but it was like it was expelling some sort of toxin. He had already seen something of the sort in Vegapunk's laboratory. Slowly walking through the trees he entered the village. It was like a normal one. People were walking here and there, doing causal things, children were playing around, everything portrayed a happy village. But it was like it was fake. Like it was forced. Like the laughs and happy faces were all masks. Then suddenly Naruto remarked something. They all had feathers on their arms. What the? People began staring at him as he walked past them. Were they afraid of him? They must have remarked his marine coat. The Namikaze approached a woman that was working on her laundry. "Excuse me, ma'am," he began. "What is this place?" "You are in the village of Mervell," she answered. "But you already know that, as we aren't really on the ground, no?" she continued with a gentle smile. "Why is there a village on this island? Isn't this the base of operation of the pirate Shiki?" he asked. "Yes. The Golden Lion used his power to tear the ground on which we are, from an island in East Blue 18 years ago, and made it fly here. We're his prisoners since that day. We can't leave this place," the woman explained, causing Naruto to tighten his fists. "That bastard. And why do you have feathers on your arms?" "It's a mutation from the high attitude, we think," the woman answered. "You should go now, sir. Or the visual Den Mushi would detect you," she continued, pointing toward a big Den approaching. In response, the Namikaze blinked in its direction, and a second after, the Den blacked out, scaring the people around it. "Do you want to leave this place?" he asked very seriously, causing the woman's eyes to widen. "Of course we want, but we can't. I know an inhabited island big enough for your people to create a new village and live peacefully. And I have a mean to transport you there. Does that interest you?" I don't know what to say. I can't decide for everyone," she answered, hardly believing her ears. "Then go and tell everyone about my proposal. I will not wait eternally," the captain said. She nodded and rapidly ran away. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. The village elder approached the blonde with a frown on his face. "What proves us that you're not lying?" he asked. "What proves us you're not worse than Shiki?" "Well, you have to see it by yourself then," Naruto said, and putting a Hiraishin chip on the ground, he grabbed the old man's arm and they disappeared in a yellow flash. Seconds later they reappeared on an island with a little mountain. "This is an uninhabited island in East Blue," said the blonde, as the elder looked around. Yes, this will do," he said, turning toward the marine. "Bring me back please." After they returned to the flying island, the old man explained everything and the villagers accepted and were ready to leave. "All right, the method I'm going to use is very draining on people that aren't trained to sustain such speed. So try your hardest to resist the pressure," Naruto explained. "I will be taking 20 at a time, so make a circle around me and touch a part of my body and hold as tightly as you can. All right, everyone ready, let's go then." And with that, he along with 20 villagers disappeared in a yellow flash. Seconds later they reappeared on an island with a little mountain. "This is Sitoka Island in East Blue. My home island. People have left this place 18 years ago, because Shiki destroyed the village. Now it's yours," he said to the people around him. The elder of the village was among them, and he approached the young captain with tears in his eyes. "Thank you so much. You saved us all. We will never forget your help," he cried out, hugging the blonde. "I will just ask you one favor." The Namikaze interrupted the man. "There, on the top of the little mountain, there are 2 tombs, my parents' tombs. Take care of them." The old man nodded vigorously at that. And with another nod, the blonde disappeared. A few seconds later 20 more were transported here. And 20 another with the same time interval. Half an hour later, Naruto touched the ground with the last villagers around him. His breath was ragged, sweat was purling on his face. But he was finally done. The Namikaze wiped the sweat with his sleeve, and nodded toward the people he had saved for the last time, before he disappeared in the now familiar yellow flash. Once he was back on Mervell, he resumed his walk toward Shiki's HQ. The overuse of the Hiraishin had strained his body and he felt a little lightheaded but a little headache wouldn't stop him. Now that innocent people were out of the harm's way, he could begin. With that he blurred out of sight. After arriving in front of the big castle, Naruto began walking toward the main doors. Some men were guarding it but they never stood a chance as he disabled all of them with a burst of Haoshoku Haki. If he hadn't used so much energy transporting the villagers, he may have disabled them with more impressive means. But, well, fighting with style wasn't really an important matter right now. He closed his eyes and tried to sense Shiki. He must be in the central room, with many other allied pirates, if what Senko had discovered was true. He resumed his walk and began literally making his path through the castle toward the center. He didn't have time to lose in this labyrinth. Finally, after a few minutes of destroying walls with hockey-charged punches, he arrived in front of the main room. And raising his right hand toward the doors, he launched a wave of hockey, completely tearing the doors apart. That caused a big brouhaha to install in the chamber, as he calmly entered. The blonde stopped in the middle of the room and launched a death glare toward the golden lion. Shiki! He cried out over the noise. The old pirate's eyes widened after he saw the blonde's face, as if he had seen a ghost. Then, after some seconds of thinking, he smiled, then laughed out loud. Gee ha ha ha. You are that brat's son. A second and I thought you were him. I have to agree, you look like him very much, the pirate exclaimed. What are you doing here, kid? Oh wait, I know. You want to avenge your father. Gee ha ha ha. Continued Shiki, angering the blonde marine. Your father was strong, kid. Very strong, he said. He had cost me an entire fleet. And an arm. He finished, gripping his left shoulder. But that was years ago. Now, I'm ready to conquer the world. And not you, nor anyone else would be able to stop me. Did you hear me, kid? A dark look crossed Naruto's face, and suddenly a great pressure fell over everyone, like a heavy blanket trying to crush them. He then began to slowly walk toward Shiki, his every step echoing through the now silent room. My name is Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, he began. And prepare yourself, Shiki, the golden lion, because I'm here, for your life. He finished with a cry, and giant shockwave escaped him, traveling through the whole island and rendering unconscious every living being on it, apart one lone man. So you mastered the Haoshoku haki? Impressive, stated the old pirate. You are too calm for a man who is going to die, Naruto said, with narrowed eyes. You're not the only one that got stronger, kid, explained Shiki, with a large smirk adorning his face. I wasn't wasting my time either. I mastered the powers of my devil fruit. You can't beat me. Suddenly, the marine captain vanished in burst of speed and reappeared to Shiki's left, launching his right fist toward the pirate's face. With a silent, Shigen, the golden lion, awaiting something of sorts, raised his right hand and caught the punch, with a smile. The punch wasn't even as powerful as he had imagined it would. His smirk only widened. But he frowned, seeing the small grin on Naruto's face. Out of a sudden, like an aftershock, a wave of energy escaped from the marine's fist, sending the old pirate backward at breakneck speed, completely going through the wall behind him, and landing on the ground, outside. What the hell was that? If he didn't know that it was impossible, he would have thought the boy used fishman karate. Damn brat. That was something new. Suddenly, sensing the blonde approach at high speed, the pirate jumped in the air and began hovering, and less than a second later, the ground on which he stood a moment ago was now a big crater of destroyed earth. Out of nowhere, the marine captain appeared to his left, but the old pirate was prepared, so he launched his blade leg toward the blonde's face. The said blonde caught the sword with his left hand and in an impressive show of strength, threw Shiki toward the ground at high speed. The golden lion stopped his fall only inches from the ground and turned around to see Naruto fly toward him at breakneck speed. Shiki waited a few moments, and when the blonde was only some yards away, he rose an earth column on his path. To answer, the Namikaze only outstretched his right hand forward and passed through the pillar like it didn't exist, and less than a second later, the old pirate was sent backward, with a broken nose. After flying a few dozen yards, Shiki was able to stabilize himself in the air and glared toward the blonde. He was strong and very fast, but it wasn't anything he couldn't afford. He would crush the boy. Unless he could do the same speed technique as his father. If the brat could use the Hiraiishin. My turn, kid. The pirate cried out, before launching himself toward the blonde at an incredible speed, slightly surprising the marine. When Shiki was only a few feet away, he made a 180 turn on himself and launched his bladed leg in a slashing motion. To say that he was shocked seeing Naruto bend backward, even before Shiki had finished his move, was an understatement. It was like the boy had seen right trough his attack. Kenbanshoku haki. Rapidly, the pirate followed with a right hook, but the blonde only stepped a step back. Not losing his momentum, Shiki followed with a slash with his left leg, but like before, Naruto stepped away from the attack. Suddenly, the Namikaze retaliated, by joining his fists in the middle, and cried out. Rokushiki Ogi. Rokuogen. Instantaneously a devastating shockwave escaped the blonde's fists, completely going through Shiki. For an instant, it was like nothing happened, because there weren't any visible damage, but the next, the golden lion began coughing blood as he fell to his knees. Naruto watched the old man in pain for a few seconds, then raised his right hand, prepared to finish the pirate's life, but he jumped in the air as a spike rose from the ground just under him. Not longer after, Shiki swept the blood from his face and stood up, a deadly look appearing on his bruised face. And just as the blonde touched the ground, hundreds upon hundreds of spikes began attacking him from the ground, to which the marine only jumped in the air and in a sweeping motion with his right leg launched a Rankyaku, sending a sharp compressed blade of air that completely cut the spikes in half. More annoyed, the golden lion raised his only hand and two giant walls of earth rose at Naruto's sides, and with another wave, launched toward him, hoping to crush the blonde. The marine captain vanished again, easily escaping the walls. But just as he reappeared, he sensed a presence very close. Wasn't it for his Kenbunshoku haki, and he wouldn't have been able to dodge the very quick slash with which Shiki hoped to cut him in half. So when Naruto was bent backward in an impressive show of flexibility, the blonde's eyes widened, because he saw as Shiki's only hand touched his torso. That was his goal since the beginning. So it wasn't a surprise when the namikaze was launched toward a rock ta high speed, being unable to control his body. Naruto rapidly emerged from the rumbles and blurred from view. When he reappeared behind the pirate, he was stopped dead in his track only inches away from hitting his target. With a cry of annoyance, the blonde vanished again, but just before reappearing some dozen yards away, he lost his balance as he was attracted toward the golden lion at high speed, completely surprising the marine. And as if in slow motion, Shiki watched as his sword cut through the surprised blonde captain. Naruto's eyes widened as he looked toward his chest, the pirate's sword completely cutting through his heart. Game over. The golden lion said, a murderous grin adorning his face. Then his eyes narrowed, because Naruto's horror-stricken face morphed into a predatory smile. Not a second later, the marine's arm began changing shape, becoming spear-like. And with a mighty movement, he launched his hand forward, cutting through the pirate's shoulder. Shiki cried in pain as it was the same place that the blonde's father has caused the same wound, 18 years ago. Rapidly sliding his sword from Naruto, the golden lion jumped back a few dozen yards, holding his heavily bleeding wound with his only hand. Damn you, you have eaten a Logia-type devil fruit, haven't you? He cried out, trying to stop the blood, without success. Maybe, was the blonde's nonchalant answer. Jihahaha. Well, then I know your weakness. Oh, and what is it? Seawater. Shiki answered with a grin, despite his still bleeding shoulder. And contrary to you, I can control water, he cried out, and with that a massive wave of water flew toward the marine captain. Naruto rapidly turned around and faced the oncoming attack with raised fists. And just as the wave of water was only inches from him, he launched his fists forward with a loud Shigen. The effect was instantaneous. As the skin of the blonde touched the water, a great shock wave completely evaporated the liquid. With a smirk, the namikaze turned back toward the pirate. Then, the bond vanished and appearing to Shiki's side, launched a Rankyaku. The old pirate raised his hand and a solid wall of earth rose from the ground, but it did nothing to stop the condensed air blade, as it cut through the wall as if it wasn't even there. Shiki reacted in time and jumped over the attack and began hovering in the air, but just a second later he sensed the blonde appear to his right, and raised his hand in time to block the powerful kick, creating a shock wave at the contact. Flying backward, the old pirate waved his hand and with his devil fruit power, sent the marine toward the ground at high speed. Naruto, seeing the hard ground approach rapidly, uttered a silent, Geppo, before vanishing from view. And just as he appeared behind the golden lion, his eyes widened, because without having time to react, he was attracted toward a sphere of seawater just beside Shiki. With another wave from the old pirate, and the namikaze was completely imprisoned in the water, being unable to breathe and unable to move. So, how do you like that one, brat? Exclaimed Shiki with a large grin. You can't breathe, can't move and can't use your powers. So, tell me, how are you gonna avenge your father? The golden lion laughed for a few seconds but stopped at seeing the concentration on Naruto's face. The young man had closed his eyes and his hands formed into fists. Then suddenly, the Marine captain's eyes shot open, and a wave of energy escaped his body, completely evaporating his water prison, under the widened eyes of Shiki. The blonde fell to his knees, wet, exhausted and panting, but still alive and kicking. Slowly he stood up and glared toward the old pirate. Water may be my weakness, like for every devil fruit user, but you forgot that I'm still master in the Rokushiki and Haki. You can't beat me, Shiki, cried out the Naruto. Let's finish this. He continued and he lowered himself, spreading his legs apart, for a better grip on the ground. Then, lifting his right foot, he took a step forward, saying aloud, Tsuchi, Jishin. Earth. Earthquake. And instantaneously, the flying island began shaking, several yards wide crack appearing here and there. Some part of the ground sinking, some other raising, completely destroying the vicinity. Then lifting his left foot, he took another step forward, this time shouting, Tsuchi, Senju. Earth. Battlefield and the island began literally tearing apart. Giant chunks of earth began flying around the blonde which was standing, still on one of them. Shiki frowned and began hovering in the air. What was he planning? What are you trying to do, kid? He asked, looking around. Naruto, for his part, snapped a finger, and everything began falling toward the sea. Then he turned toward the old pirate and spoke at least. I'm getting rid of anything you would use to extend your survival, coldly answered the Marine. Without earth nor water at your disposal, you will no longer be able to evade me in my attacks. And contrary to you, I don't need my devil fruit's powers to kill you, he continued, using Shiki's own words. Don't forget that I'm still a swordsman, the golden lion shouted with anger. Well, let's see how you fare without your devil fruit, Naruto cried out, before vanishing in a burst of speed. The next instant, he was behind Shiki with a sword made of earth in his hand. The old pirate rapidly turned around and blocked the oncoming attack with a loud cling. You forgot one little detail, Namikaze. I still can control your body, Shiki exclaimed and willed the blonde to fly left, directly toward the oncoming slash with his left leg. Naruto raised an eyebrow and just let the attack pass trough him. And you forgot that I'm a Logia type, calmly explained the young man, as his body rapidly repaired itself. Then he disappeared again only to reappear to the pirate's left. Rankyaku, he cried out, launching a compressed blade of air toward the golden lion. Shiki lifted his only hand in front of him to block the attack, but he was nevertheless sent a few dozen yards backward, with a large gash adorning his arm and torso. Damn you, little brat, he cried out, gritting his teeth in pain. Then looking around he spotted one of his lesser islands still hovering in the air. With resolution, he darted toward it at breakneck speed, closely followed by Naruto. After stepping on its hard ground, he turned toward the blonde and lifted his hand, telling him to stop. Well then, kid, let's do it the old way, he began. The old way, what is on your mind, Shiki? The 3 strikes, the golden lion answered. You know what that means, don't you? Yeah, we must exchange 2 strikes and the third is the killing blow. The old way of duels to death, Naruto explained. Why this sudden change of heart? You are a worthy opponent, one of the best I ever encountered, I have to admit. And I can see how your every strike gets closes and closer to kill me. If I die, I want it to be with honor. And who knows, maybe at the 3rd strike, I will be the one giving the death blow, honestly answered Shiki. Be it your way then. It doesn't matter to me which way I kill you, the blonde said. The golden lion rose a few feet above the ground, and with gritted teeth, detached the sword on his right leg. Still hovering, he swung the blade around, getting the feelings of wielding it back. Naruto, for his part, plunged his right hand in his ragged suit and took a 3-bladed dagger. The one his father has made. Ready? Shiki asked. Ready, the Namikaze cried out. Then, they launched toward each other at breakneck speed. The 2 warriors met with their blades with a loud clang, and then disappeared from sight. A moment later, the second clang was heard a dozen yards away from the previous. Then, they appeared 30 yards away from each other and in a last effort darted toward each other. Flying at breakneck speed, Shiki brought his sword forward. Naruto, outstretching his hand back, launched his dagger toward the golden lion like a bullet, when he was only yards away. The old pirate bent to the right and evaded the three-bladed dagger, and with a smirk, swung his sword toward the marine captain. That's when the blonde disappeared in a yellow flash, completely surprising the old pirate. Less than a second later, Naruto appeared behind Shiki, and taking hold of his father's dagger, plunged it in the pirate. The golden lion stopped dead in his tracks, as he looked toward his chest only to see the three-bladed dagger completely piercing his heart. The Namikaze, for his part, cringed, seeing that Shiki had cut in his side with his blade, that he had in a reverse grip. Damn it, he had forgotten that the dagger was made from sea stone. Slowly, Naruto slid his dagger out of the pirate and took several steps back. The old man slowly turned toward the blonde, and a smile appeared on his bruised face. Damn, you're good, Namikaze, he said, coughing blood. You won. With that he fell to the ground. Naruto slowly approached him, and with cold eyes looked toward the fallen warrior. Now, I only have to kill Okano to avenge my father, he said, with an emotionless voice. Oh, Okano? The pirate asked, coughing even more blood. Okano, jiha. Cough, jihahaha. Why are you laughing? Naruto asked, narrowing his eyes. You thought, cough, that I was working with Okano, a worm like him, jiha. Cough cough. What do you mean? Exclaimed the blonde, his eyes widening. He was just a messenger dog. Then who? Tell me, the Namikaze cried out, shaking the pirate. Tell me. He. Cough, who? 10, T10, said Shiki, but then he froze, and his eyes glazed over, lifeless. No, Naruto cried out. Suddenly, the little island they were on began falling. Shiki was dead. Slowly standing up, the blonde concentrated all the haki he could muster and jumped forward, in the air. He needed speed to make a jump, with the Hiraishin to his ship. So with several Geppo, he began flying at a breakneck speed. Then, when he was content with his speed, he concentrated and uttered, "Hirai," but he was cut off by a violent cough, bringing blood to his lips. His head began spinning as he began losing all his senses. Damn it! And with a loud splash, the marine captain Namikaze Naruto fell in the sea below. He growled as he awoke from his slumber. His body was sore, his members were stinging him, and his side was hurting. He couldn't push himself to open his eyes, he was too exhausted. But suddenly, he sensed a hand touching his chest, and without even taking time to think, his reflexes kicked in. And rapidly catching with his left hand the person's wrist in a vice grip, he sat up, and with his right hand caught the attacker's neck. A second later, Naruto slammed the person to the ground, cracking it a little bit. Finally he snapped his eyes open and glared at the attacker. A girl, with cyan-colored hair made in a ponytail, a blue striped t-shirt and yellow shorts, was looking at him with widened blue eyes. Remembering what he was doing, the blonde released his grip on her and stood up. Outstretching his right hand, spoke up. "I'm sorry, miss. My reflexes kicked in. I thought you were attacking me," he explained with a reassuring smile. The girl watched the offered hand with wariness, but after a few seconds accepted it and stood up with his help. What are you doing in my room, and my ship?" the blonde asked, then watched himself and saw bandages everywhere on his body. "What the hell happened to me? And where the hell am I?" he thought after seeing that he wasn't in his room, and that it wasn't his ship. "I was tending to your wounds. I was making sure that the blood had stopped flowing from the wound in your side, before you interrupted me," she finished with narrowed eyes. But seeing his incomprehension, continued. "We fished you out from the sea after my crew saw you fall from the sky. Very strange, if you want my opinion." The blonde stared at her like she was crazy. But then memories came back and his eyes widened. Damn it, that's right, his battle with Shiki, and his failed Hiraishin. "How long?" "Only 2 days. She answered. "Come, the captain wants to see you," she continued, and turning around she left the room closely followed by Naruto. The blonde looked around and concluded that the ship was very small compared to his. And the Jolly Roger that it was adorning could mean only one thing. His savers were pirates. To be saved by the very people he vowed to hunt. Damn his luck and damn the karma. Luffy-san, the girl exclaimed, walking toward the deck. He has awakened. Yosh, cried a young boy, about 17, with a straw hat on his head and a large grin on his face, before jumping down from the crow nest in front of the blonde. So, what's your name, Sky Man? He continued with the same exited tone. Sky Man? The Marine asked, raising his eyebrow at the straw hat wearing boy. Wait, straw hat, damn, that was Mugiwara no Luffy. Monkey D. Luffy, old Garp's grandson. Well, you fell from the sky. Are you from those mythic sky islands that Gramps talked about? The boy continued, with his grin still plastered on his face. Skypia is much further in the Grand Line than where we are now. Wait, where are we? Asked the Namikaze. A green-haired young man, with 3 sheathed katanas on his waist, walked toward them and leaned on the mast. We are taking Cap toward Drum Island. On our way we saw you fall in the sea. And not seeing you resurfacing we jumped and saved you, he explained. So where are you from? And what were you doing so high over the sea? I don't want to sound like Luffy there, but you fell from the sky, badly hurt, and people don't fall from the sky out of nowhere. I fought with someone. Naruto answered, restraining himself from arresting all of them and taking them to impel down. They may be pirates, but they had saved his life. With his inability to swim, his chances to survive his fall were, to be frank, equal to 0. Another young man, with blonde hair, wearing a black suit, and smoking a cigarette walked from another room of the ship and approached them. Nami-chan's condition is still the same, he said with a sigh to his crewmates. And only then seeing Naruto, continued. So you're up, that's good, lesser persons to take care of, the better. It must have been a though opponent. The green-haired man said, getting back to the previous subject. He was, the Marine captain stated, turning away. Hey, wait, you said Skypia, so the Sky Island really exists, exclaimed Mugiwara, only now catching what the man had said. Have you already been there? Was it cool? Do you know a way to go there? Luffy, we have more important things to do right now, cried out the same blonde with a strange swirl-like eyebrow, hitting his captain on the head. Ah, right, we have to take Nami to a doctor, the Straw Hat exclaimed. Hey, what's your name anyway? He continued, turning toward the Marine. Naruto. The Namikaze answered. Well then, Naruto, become my nakama, Luffy proposed excitedly. Not that fast, idiot, the green-haired man cried out, hitting the boy on his head, causing the Marine captain to raise an eyebrow. Those pirates sure were a bunch of weirdos. Pirates were vile, backstabbing, traitorous bastards without respect nor honor. All his life, the pirates he met were always under those criteria. And he took great pleasure in bringing them all to their knees, before crushing their absurd dreams or fantasies and sending them to impel down. But this bunch, they were strange. Out of ordinary, and there was nothing more dangerous than an unpredictable enemy. Sorry, but I already have a crew, Naruto explained. But where are you going? And what is your business in those parts of Grand Line? Our navigator is sick, and she needs a doctor, answered a newcomer. He was young, maybe the same age as the Mugiwara, with curly black hair with goggles in them, and a long pointed nose. We don't really know where we actually are, but Nami said that we have to take the cap that the log pose shows. She said Drum Island was the closest to us. Hey, Sanji, is it ready or what? I'm starving, the young pirate captain exclaimed. He is right, you know, the goggle-wearing boy said to his blonde friend. We haven't eaten anything since this morning, Sanji. All is ready, you bunch of pigs, the blonde cook exclaimed. Let's go, you will explain how you found yourself in this situation, over the table, the green-haired swordsman said to the Marine. The Namikaze nodded and followed his saviors toward the kitchen. After they were seated comfortably, they began to devour the food in front of them, making the Oganshoku Kisai raise an eyebrow. After a few minutes, the green-haired man turned toward him and spoke. We haven't introduced ourselves, how rude of us. I'm Zoro. Usopp. The goggle-wearing boy said. Sanji. The cook answered. I'm Vivi, nice to meet you, the cyan-haired girl said. And as you have surely understood, he is Luffy, our captain, Zoro said, pointing toward the Mugiwara that was devouring everything around him in mere seconds. And, Nami, our navigator, is sick and that's why we are going to Drum Island. We need a doctor, and quick. But you yourself, what are you doing in this part of Grand Line? Asked Usopp. I was on a mission. I was here to stop the plans of a tyrant pirate. We fought and he lost, along with his men, Naruto answered. But you fell from the sky. Where did you fight then? Asked Vivi, more and more interested. On his HQ, Naruto honestly answered. He had eaten a devil fruit that made him able to make fly anything he touched. Whoa, what a fearsome power, exclaimed Usopp. So you must be very powerful if you fought him and won, he continued, but the Marine chose to remain silent. Hey, why you're so quiet? We're not Marines, we're not gonna send you to prison or anything, cried out the pirate captain. Come on, eat the food, he finished, causing the Namikaze to raise an eyebrow. He must really like you, Naruto. Because Luffy never offers to share his food with anyone, explained Sanji, to which the Namikaze nodded and took a piece of meat. After a few minutes of observation, the blonde captain concluded that one member of this crew was behaving strangely, unpirate-like. She was too delicate, too princess-like, and now that he thought about it, she kind of reminded him of someone. So, what is a princess like you doing on a ship with pirates? Nefertari Vivi, said Naruto, turning toward the only girl. Her eyes widened, as the Mugiwara tensed, prepared to defend their cyan-haired friend if need be. The silence lasted a few seconds before the blonde Marine smiled. Calm down, all of you. You were the ones that saved me. Do you really think I was sent to hurt her? He explained. How did you discover my identity? The princess asked. I visited Alabaster a few years ago, that's how I recognized you. Though it wasn't instantaneous. You grew up after all, calmly answered Naruto, as the others relaxed. You still haven't answered my question. Alabaster is in a bad situation. A civil war is orchestrated to cut the country in half. That bastard has really played a good role by hiding his real intentions, Vivi explained. Who is it? Crocodile. The princess answered, causing Naruto's eyes to widen for a second, but then he frowned. Crocodile, you say? The Shichibukai? Why am I not surprised? He thought. So, what is your plan? And more importantly, why are you with pirates instead of Marines? Luffy-san and his crew saved me, and they promised that they will help me in stopping Crocodile. Pirates helping a damsel in distress and saving a country. Sorry, but it is a hard thing to imagine. Believe it or not, but we will help Vivi, exclaimed Usopp. And Marines will not help, because Crocodile is a Shichibukai. They still think he works for them, but it's just a way to hide his plans, said the cyan-haired princess. And speaking of Marines, their behavior was strange. 3 Marine battleships passed by us this morning without even stopping. Not that I'm complaining, but not attacking a pirate ship after spotting one is strange, said Zoro with a frown. They seemed in a rush, and were heading in the direction of where we fished you, he continued, narrowing his eyes toward the blonde captain. And I'm more than certain that that was because of you. Who are you? You have a sharp mind, Zoro, the pirate hunter. It may indeed have been because of me that they were in a rush, the Namikaze answered. As for who I am, well, I'm sure we'll meet again very soon, so, formalities aren't necessary. But now, he continued, standing up, I think my crew is waiting for me. See ya, he finished, before disappearing in a yellow flash, completely freaking out the Mugiwaras. What the hell, where did he go? Exclaimed Usopp. Damn it, I knew he was hiding something, said Zoro, sheathing his katana. Hua, cool, I will make him my nakama the next time we meet, cried out Luffy. Just wait for me, Naruto. A second later, the Namikaze reappeared on the deck of his ship and sighed in relief. Finally it was over. Shiki was dead. Captain, cried someone to his left. It was Hentaro. Oi, people, Captain is back. And a few seconds later, the blonde was encircled by his crew. Hi guys, was his simple greeting. Where the hell were you? Cried a woman behind him. Ah, Dina-chan. He began, but was interrupted. Don't. Dina-chan me. Where were you for 2 days? We thought you had died. OWW. Come on, do you think so lowly of me? You wound me. Shut up and answer the question. Where were you? I fell in the sea, was Naruto's simple answer. You fell in the sea. I told you to let us come with you. You idiot. Calm down Dina-chan, all got right in the end, no. I was saved by a bunch of fishers, he said, and then turning to his right spoke again. Admiral Kizaru, Admiral Akainu, to what do I owe the pleasure of having you on my humble ship? Humble ship, my. Humble would have been the last word I'd use to describe the fastest ship in the marine, the lazy admiral said. You seem quite healthy for a man that fought the Golden Lion and his army, he stated. The fishers healed me, the blonde said with a smile. So what now? He continued with a serious voice. Follow us, Captain, Akainu said, before walking away, shortly followed by the second admiral and the Namikaze. After we found your crew in the harbor of Drum Island, without you, we decided to come here and search for you. After hours of searching the sea and the vicinity, there was no sign of you, but we found something very interesting, the admiral continued, before stopping in front of a door and nodding toward the Namikaze. Naruto approached the door and opened it. There in the middle of the room, on a large table, was lying the bruised and dead body of the Golden Lion. After we found him in this state, we knew you weren't dead, so we decided to wait for you to return by yourself. And we were right, the lava user explained. You have accomplished a great deed, Captain Namikaze. And this body will be the proof of this deed. You should be proud of yourself. I am proud, Naruto said, as a dark look passed his face. Very proud. ... No, he wasn't able to finish, but I'm sure that's what he was trying to say. That complicates our plan, Naru-chan. I know, I never thought it could go that far. Me neither. But we can't do anything right now. You have to wait and try finding more about Okano. I don't like it one bit, Gigi. Do your duty, protect the people. We'll find something in the meantime. We have waited for a long time, we can wait for a little longer. To rush things will only complicate our situation. Indeed, speaking of, I think that Impel Down will be getting new inmates. Hook, yes. Naruto said, I sense someone approaching. I will talk to you later, Gigi. Bye. And with that, the Namikaze hanged the Den Mushi. Not a second later someone knocked on his door. Enter, Senko. Captain, you're summoned by the world government. Damn it, what is it now? Can't I have a little peace? It has been only 3 days since we returned. Did they say what for? No sir, just that it was very important, his vice captain answered. With a sigh, the blonde stood up and followed his friend toward the ship that would take him to Mariajoy. He could have flashed toward it, but those old fossils were against him appearing out of nowhere in the Holly City. Captain Namikaze Naruto, for your deeds, of stopping the pirate Shiki, the Golden Lion and his army, from destroying East Blue and thus preventing the death of thousands of people, we, the world government, by the power that is bestowed to us, name you Vice Admiral. Once you leave this court, your new rank will be made public, and you will begin your work as a Vice Admiral. Do you have something to add? I still want to be the one commanding the Shunji Hokaku Buntai, the Namikaze said with a voice that didn't leave place for arguments. That request isn't hard to accept, Vice Admiral. You are the Oganshoku Kisai, after all, and were the one that created that squad. Mo it be. Then I gladly accept, the blonde said, bowing slightly. If you don't have any other questions, you are dismissed. The Namikaze turned around and with a feral smirk plastered on his face, left the court. Minutes later, the new Vice Admiral was walking in the hall of the main marine building, heading toward the Fleet Admiral's office, closely followed by his Vice Captain. Sir, what is on your mind? You became Vice Admiral only minutes ago, and you already want to leave Marineford. What's the big deal? Don't rush things, Senko. You'll discover all in due time, answered the blonde, before stopping in front of a door, and knocking on it 3 times. And after an enter, He opened the said door and entered the office. Fleet Admiral Sengoku, Vice Admiral Namikaze, what it is? I want to go to Alabaster, was Naruto's answer. Alabaster, why there and why so soon after your rise in ranks? Is something the matter? The Buddha asked with a frown. I have information that the Shichibukai Crocodile is playing a double game with us. He is preparing something big, the Namikaze answered. I want to be the one to settle that problem. And I think that could be a great present for my advance in ranks, don't you think? Crocodile, well, he shouldn't be worse than Shiki. Alright, you may go. Thank you, Fleet Admiral. I will leave without wasting time, the Vice Admiral said with a smirk on his face. And with a nod, he left the room, followed by Gio. Once they were out of earshot, the blonde spoke up. Senko, prepare the ship and the crew and get ready for our departure. I will arrive shortly, he said, before vanishing in a yellow flash. Yes sir, the vice captain exclaimed to the now bare space in front of him, before he too, blurred in a burst of speed. Naruto reappeared just before his pink-haired friend's quarters and entered the office without knocking. Hey, Hina-chan, guess who's, but he stopped mid-sentence. She wasn't there. Looking around he spotted a letter on her table. He slowly approached it and took it in hand. It was addressed to him, so he opened it and read its content. Naruto-kun, Hina knows that you talked about going somewhere and that you wanted to take Hina with you, but Hina had to decline. Hina was sent on a secret mission after we received troubled news from our informant in the New World. Hina's duty is to investigate that matter in details. You should talk to Sengoku Dono if you want to know more because Hina doesn't have time to explain right now. Congratulations on becoming Vice Admiral, Naruto-kun. You deserve it. Yours, Hina. What the? Well, it wasn't like he could do something about it. With a sigh, he took a step forward and disappeared in another yellow flash. Second later he reappeared on the wooden deck of his ship, and like a week ago, his crew was busily running around, preparing for their departure. Slowly, he began walking around, making sure that his ship was in perfect condition, should they use the move. Finally he was approached by Senko. Sir, all is ready. We can leave at your command. Well then gentlemen, take cap toward Alabaster, the Vice Admiral ordered, as everyone began doing their job in making the battleship sail. And soon enough they were out from Marineford's harbor and on their way to the sandy island. Sir, so we're going to stop a Shichibukai? Asked the vice captain. Indeed, it will be our first hunt on a sea warlord, Naruto answered with a smirk. Ready for it? Like hell, Captain, cried out Hentaro from afar. We'll gonna kick their asses. Sure you will, Pipsqueak, said Dina, approaching the Namikaze and getting a cry of annoyance from her crewmate. And this time you will not leave us out, she continued glaring at her captain. Or I'll make sure you'll never be able to sit down. HM. Of course, Dina-chan. Of course. The blonde whispered with a grin. I'm going to my quarters, so don't disturb me unless it's important. And an attack from a sea king is counted as important? Asked Hentaro, but seeing the twitch of the Vice Admiral's eyes, he cringed and answered his own question. You, right. That means no. The Namikaze shook his head and walked away without uttering a word. Damn, that was lame, cried out another crew member of his. Hey, Senko, how lame that was on the scale of Tase Budo, he continued. Achievement board. I would say about 20 points, answered Gio with a smirk. T20. What? Hey, that didn't count. I wasn't thinking straight, Hentaro cried out. Ha, but you should have, the same man responded. He was about the same height as Senko, with a bald head adorning the Shunji Hokaku Buntai, ensign. 2 3-bladed kunai crossed in the middle, with a ribbon in the bottom around them, with Shuho Bu written on it. He wore a blue tight t-shirt with a black leather jacket over it and dark trousers. His name was Tetsu Hanma, and being a master of Rokushiki, he used his powers very effectively with his large hammer he called Kurasha. And he, along with the whole crew, participated in a little competition started by their blonde captain, that was literally the board of awesome achievements. You won points by doing something worthy, and you lost them by doing, well, something unworthy, like in Hentaro's case, asking a stupid question. The Namikaze had stated that this little competition would teach them to never show a bad face in front of opponents or enemies. And that was proving to work, well, for the majority anyway. And that puts you to 3,375 points, Hanma continued. Oh man, I'll never catch to Senko, Hentaro whined. You still have to work hard to achieve my 5,780, Hentu. Gio bragged with a large smile on his face, to the great annoyance of Hentaro. Shut up, exclaimed the young brown-haired man, before jumping in front of the vice captain and pointing an accusing finger in his face. You know what, me, a sparring match, right now. Oh, come on man, I'm not in the mood. Ha, you're afraid of my awesomeness. Hell will freeze 10 times over, before I'll be afraid of you, Hentu. Senko said, rolling his eyes, but seeing the look on his friend's face, continued. All right, Pipsqueak, I'll kick your ass if you're so eager to fight me, Gio said, slowly walking toward the middle of the deck, followed by Hentaro. What are your conditions? You can't use hockey. The brown-haired young man answered. And the Rokushiki? Don't go over your head, Senko. You know perfectly well that I will kill you if you don't use the Rokushiki, stated Hentaro with a hard edge in his voice that wasn't there seconds ago. Let's go then, the vice captain whispered before vanishing in a burst of speed. Seconds later he was behind Hentaro and launched his right foot in a kick toward his head. The brown-haired young man, as for his part, rapidly turned around and caught the kick with his left hand in a vice grip, creating a little shock wave. Without wasting time, Senko followed with a slash with his left foot, sending a rankyaku toward his friend. Hentaro, releasing his grip, jumped a few yards back and raised his forearms in front of him in a block, and took the incoming attack head-on. The result would have been surprising for someone that didn't know Hentaro and his powers. Because instead of cutting his arms in half, the attack was stopped short, with the only reaction being to make him slide a few inches back. And if you looked closely, you could see his arms glinting in the light, as if made of some metal. And indeed, they were made of metal. He was Hentaro Ashigi, and his power was the power of the Kane no Mi, the power to transform his body into any type of metal. He could literally become indestructible, and his only weakness was hockey, and of course seawater. But if his opponent couldn't use either of them, well, he was doomed. But in Senko's case, which was quite proficient in Rokushiki, he could hold his ground against Hentaro. The brown-haired man jumped toward the vice captain at high speed, bringing his right fist forward in a punch, transforming his body into titanium, his indestructible form. Gio dodged the attack by bending back and brought his own fist toward Hentaro's face, with a rapid shigen. But as his punch hit its mark, the only response was not from the brown head, but himself, as he jumped back with a cry of pain. What the hell? His punch could level a house without problem. But hitting Hentaro's face was like hitting he didn't even know what. And while massaging his bruised hand, he was nearly hit by a surprise attack from his friend. Rapidly blurring from view, the vice captain reappeared a few yards away and got in his combat stance. He wanted a real fight. Well, he would get one. Hentaro did a 180 on himself as he saw Senko appear behind him, launching a rankyaku with his left leg, and just as his attack hit home, he disappeared anew and launched another and another from every direction. The brown-haired young man frowned and concentrated on his powers, because countering that many air blades, and from Senko, wasn't an easy task. The attacks collided with his hardened body at high speed, making him grunt a little from the strain, but he smirked after seeing that he wasn't even scratched. Gio, for his part, vanished in a burst of speed and appeared a few dozen yards away, and with a glare that was saying, "Game over," he jumped forward, and with each step using the geppo to accelerate his pace, ran toward his friend. Hentaro narrowed his eyes and slid his left leg behind, bending his right arm close to his side, and outstretching his left hand forward, in a fist, waited for the incoming clash. And he hadn't to wait for long, because less than a second later, he launched his right fist forward and met Senko's one. The result was a massive shock wave that escaped from their hit as the two warriors stood there, unflinching, waiting for something to happen, as they glared at each other. And suddenly, "Hey guys, a sea king!" cried Hanma from the other side of the ship, pointing in the distance. The still unmoving friends shared a look and both of them smirked. "He is mine," Hentaro said, a large grin splitting his face. "Sure about that," replied Senko, with a matching smile. And the two members of the Shunji Hokaku Buntai blurred from sight. Dot, 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 dot. With a yawn, the new vice admiral stretched in his bed and opened his eyes. He had a good nap, but now he was hungry. He stood up and walked out of his room, but halfway toward the main deck he began hearing noises, word laughs, and some sort of smell, like meat. Naruto finally arrived on the deck and raised an eyebrow at seeing what his crew was doing. "Hey Captain, want some fried sea king?" cried out Hentaro, from his seat near the board. The blonde looked around and saw that a big chunk of whatever sea king it was lying on the side, while another part of it was being fried by his cooks. And only then seeing the goofy grin on his metal man, he grinned himself. "How much, Hentaro?" he asked, taking a piece of meat himself. 12.5 seconds, answered the brown head as his grin got even wider. "Ow, that's a second faster than Senko," the Namikaze stated, knowing perfectly well that that would irritate his vice captain, and sure it did. "I admit defeat," Gio responded with closed eyes, trying his hardest to remain calm. "So, how much did you win?" "200s, asked the vice admiral. "Actually, 200s for killing a sea king, and 100 more for making a new record," Ashigi exclaimed. "Good job, we can see how you have improved," Naruto continued with the same nonchalant voice, before taking a bite in his meat. "Yeah, I'm becoming more and more awesome. I'm sure that now I can take the vice captain post from Senko," he continued, impaling his friend's wounded pride even more. And as he awaited, the reaction didn't make itself wait. "Stop it, all of you, damn it. It was just by a second. He just got lucky," Senko exclaimed, showing his frustration. "Ow, that was lame, vice captain," Hanma said, shaking his head. "Most unyouthful from you," he continued, now a little smirk adorning his face. "How much will this outburst cost him, Vice Admiral?" 50, was Naruto's simple answer. Senko's eyes widened. What? A strong vice captain should never show his frustration to his opponents, no matter the situation. "Am I not right, Captain?" Hentaro stated. "Indeed," the Namikaze answered, taking another bite of his meat. "So, that puts us to 3,675 for Hentaro and 5,730 for Senko," Hanma said, after writing it on the board. "I'm catching up to you, Vice Captain," the brown-haired young man said, with the same face-splitting grin, as Gio fumed but said nothing, having taken enough for one day. Naruto, for his part, smiled. His crew was a real family now, and he knew that no matter what, nothing and no one would be able to break this family apart. Dot, 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 dot. "Hey, Captain, why are we going to Alabaster? I know it's where the king lives, but isn't Rainbase where Crocodile's HQ is?" "I mean, we're here to stop the Shichibukai, no?" asked Hentaro. "Yes, but my informant said that Crocodile was preparing a civil war to execute his plans." "And where is the best place to start a civil war?" the Namikaze said. "The king's palace," the brown-haired man stated. "But, we're not going by foot, are we?" "Well, because it's not like it isn't far. We will dock the ship on the coast of this river, and all flash us there," the vice admiral answered as he took a look around and spotted a familiar pirate ship. "So they were here after all. You have a ship in Alabaster," was Senko's surprised question. "I have ships on every island or city I visited," Naruto stated, slowly turning toward his vice captain. "Handy, isn't it?" "We're ready to dock, Captain," exclaimed a marine at the other end of the ship. "Anchor the ship," the Namikaze cried out. "The first squad is coming with me, the rest stay here and guard the vicinity. If you see someone suspicious, capture and find out if he has anything to do with Crocodile or his plans." "Yes, sir," his crew chorused. "Perfect. Then, take a hold of me and don't let go. Ready, go." And with that the vice admiral disappeared in a yellow flash, bringing with him the first squad of the Shunji Hokaku Buntai. A second later they all appeared in front of the king's palace, and in the middle of a large-scale fight between the rebels and the royal army. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Were they too late? And most of all, where was Crocodile? The people around them hadn't even noticed the arrival of the elite marine squad. The Namikaze looked around and after spotting someone familiar, a smirk appeared on his face. Senko, stop this useless fight with doing as less damage possible. Then, capture the pirate crew. What pirate crew? You'll see by yourself. They are a strange bunch of fellows, Naruto continued with a smirk. And make it quick, 'cause if I'm back before you're done, I think that I will take Hentaro on that request, about becoming the new vice captain, he finished before vanishing from view in a burst of speed. Shit. Gio cursed under his breath. Then he looked around and searched for a way to stop the fight. Damn it. It was in those moments that he cursed himself for not having the Haushoku haki. With it he could have knocked everyone out in mere seconds, like his blonde captain always did when they hadn't time to fight. Damn it. And how was he supposed to stop the fight without doing damage, when the first squad was the powerhouse? And now that he thought about it, he was nearly sure that the Namikaze had chosen them on purpose to make his life harder. All right. Hey, Hanma, Hentaro. See that tower? He said, pointing toward the clock tower next to the palace. That one? Tetsu asked. Do you see another tower around, idiot? Senko exclaimed as he pinched the bridge of his nose. Well, what of it? Destroy that tower with as much noise as you can, the vice captain answered. What, are you out of your mind? Cried out Hentaro. It's the only way to attract the attention of those people without hurting them, even if I want to kick some asses. Oh, and Hentu, it's an order, Gio finished with a feral smirk. Ashigi huffed and began running toward the tower, closely followed by Hanma. Upon arriving in front of the tower, they stopped. What do we do now? The bald man asked. I think that we should climb all the way to the top and completely destroy the clock with its bells. That will do a hell lot of noise, don't you think? Yep, that should work. Well, let's go then. Hanma said as both of them jumped in the air and with a few rapid geppo arrived on the top of the said building. And just as they jumped in the room with the clock in it, they had to dodge a knife that was launched toward them. The bald one reacted in milliseconds and he was on their attacker with his raised hammer at a moment's notice, but stopped just in time before crushing the beautiful cyan-haired head of the attacker. She was just a young girl, a frightened young girl. What the hell? Hey, Missy, it's dangerous to launch a knife at professionals like us, yeah, no. If I hadn't reacted in time, I would have splashed the gorgeous little head of yours, Hanma continued. Who are you? Are you other agents of Baroque Works? I thought we stopped all of you, the young woman asked, taking a step back. Hey, your ugly head is scarring her, Hanma, Hentaro said, looking around and spotting a strange cannon, with something bomb-like just next to it. We're Marines that came here to stop the Shichibukai crocodile. Do you know where he is? You're Marines, we. Hey, Hentaro, I don't like the sound of the ticking noise of this thing, at all. Oh, the bomb, the girl cried out. We're going to die. The bomb is going to explode and kill everyone around. Hey, calm down lady. Bald head, I have an idea, the brown-haired man said, approaching the bomb and taking it in hand. Use your hammer and launch me as high as you can. You're going to let it explode in the air. Yeah. But you will die, the girl exclaimed. What is your name anyway? Vivi. Well, Vivi-san, I'm immortal, Hentaro said with a charming smile as he approached his friend and climbed on his hammer. Hurry up, Hanma, we have only 8 seconds. Well, it's not like you're particularly light, the bald mumbled before with a cry, launching the ashigi in the air at high speed, with an impressive show of strength. The brown-haired man, for his part, smirked as he flew higher and higher, before completely transforming himself in his titanium form. And just as he neared 100 yards above the ground, the bomb detonated in a giant explosion, creating a massive shock wave that sent everyone to the ground. And just as Senko was asking himself what in heaven's name happened, Hentaro landed a few yards behind him in his metal form, creating a large crater around him. The vice captain raised an eyebrow, and spoke up. I'm not even going to ask you where you found a bomb. But good job, he said, shaking his head, as he observed that it had indeed brought everyone's attention on them. So, listen people, I'm the Marine Vice Captain of Shunji Hokaku Buntai, and I was sent here to calm the tension in the city. If you don't stop fighting right now, I have an authorization to send every one of you to impel down. And if you think that we can't back down our words and continue anyway, you'll do the biggest mistake in your life. Vice Admiral Namikaze is in Alubarna right now with an order to capture the Shichibukai crocodile, and he ordered that anyone that opposes our orders would be executed. He finished, and watched around him to see the reaction that his speech has brought. He could see that the majority of them were getting second thoughts about continuing to fight. His plan had worked, but it got even better. People of Alabaster, you've been all deceived by Crocodile. He was the one that dried our country with his powers. And he was the one that sent all those sandstorms on Yuba. It was all his doing and his alone. He turned peoples of the same country against each other for his own evil plans. So stop this madness, cried out Vivi as she stood at Senko's and Hentaro's sides. Her words had completely calmed the people, as they began putting their weapons to the ground. Cool speech, miss. I'm impressed that they listened to you like that. You win 100 points. Hentaro said, with a grin. I'm the Princess Nefertari Vivi. The young woman said, with a smile of her own, making the one on the metal man's face freeze. Damn. He whispered. Thank you for saving all those people, Immortal San. The princess continued addressing the metal man. Instantaneously, the grin on Ashigi got even wider, as he saw that he still has a little chance. You can call me Hentaro-sama, he said, raising his head above hers, to look a little arrogant. We owe you a great deal, Hentaro-sama, Vivi said, bowing slightly. Oh, don't worry about it, princess. Beings like me have to help mortals from time to time, but I think a date will be a good repayment, the Marine said, turning toward the cyan-haired young woman. She was taken by surprise, but got out of it rapidly enough. A date? Well, if you think that it will be a good repayment, I can't disagree, she said, with a smile. After all is settled, of course. Of course. Hentaro said, still in his arrogant mode, but inside he was doing a happy dance. Suddenly a few people ran toward the princess, with worry in their eyes. They were composed of a blonde man, wearing a black suit, a long-nosed young man, an orange-haired girl, a green-haired man with 3 katanas sheathed on his waist, and a reindeer. They looked quite beaten up. Vivi, you, how? What happened? Exclaimed the orange-haired girl. The cannon was actually a ruse, because it was a time bomb, the princess answered. A time bomb, the long-nosed youth cried out. But then, Baldhead San and Hentaro-sama arrived and made the bomb explode in the air, saving us all. Nefertari answered, pointing toward the said men. I knew that my Vivi-cha, began the blonde man, but suddenly stopped. S-sama, he cried out, pointing toward the metal man. And that's when the new group really saw the squad of Marines that stood behind the Princess of Alabaster. Marines, the long-nosed youth along with the reindeer exclaimed. Run, run, he continued as he began running away. But before he could make a few steps, Senko appeared in front of him, shaking his head. I don't think so, he said. You must be the pirates that Captain talked about, he continued. And I was ordered to capture all of you. That's if you can achieve such a thing, the green-haired swordsman said, unsheathing one of his blades. Moss Head is right. If you think you can capture us, you don't know who we are, the blonde man continued. No, Zoro, Sanji, don't fight. The conflict is over, Vivi cried out, stepping between the two groups. Sorry, princess, Hentaro began, his smile long gone from his face. But we are the Shunji Hokaku Buntai, and our work consists of capturing pirates. Squad 1, capture the pirates, Senko cried out, and just as he finished, every member of the elite marine squad blurred from sight. Hanma appeared just between the orange-haired girl, the long-nosed youth and the reindeer and slammed his hammer with a powerful Rokushiki enhanced move, creating a massive shock wave that sent the 3 pirates away from him at high speed. And just before falling to the ground, the 3 of them felt hands taking hold of them, and a second later, they were slammed headfirst to the ground, with sea-stone shackles around their hands. At the same time, Hentaro blurred toward the blonde pirate. And as Sanji saw the marine fly toward him at high speed, he concentrated and launched his right foot toward the oncoming man's face. But Ashigi only wiped it away as if it was an annoying fly, and delivered a powerful punch to Sanji's stomach, making him double in pain. And a second later he, like his friends, was sent face first to the ground, with sea-stone shackles already around his hands. Finally, the only member of the pirate crew that was still standing, turned rapidly to the left as he saw a red-haired woman run toward him at high speed, with daggers in both hands. Zoro prepared for the oncoming slash, bringing two of his katanas forward to counter the woman. But the woman just blurred from sight, and not a second later, his two swords were cut in half. Impossible, was his thought before he met the same end as his friends. Perfect, Senko said, using his captain's favorite word. Once again the Shunji Hokaku Buntai has showed why they were the most feared marine squad. The people around them couldn't believe their eyes, but the most surprised of all were the Straw Hats. They were disabled in mere seconds. Okay, they had fought the Baroque Works members, but still, to be stopped that quickly, it was insane. And now that he thought about it, Zoro wasn't sure that even Luffy would have been able to stand a chance against them. And now, we wait for our captain to come back, Senko said, with a grin adorning his face, knowing that he would be getting more points for his incredible actions. So what does it say about the Pluton? The Shichibukai crocodile asked his woman subordinate. Nothing. There is nothing about the location of the Pluton. There are only historic dates, answered Miss All Sunday without turning away from the poneglyph. Nothing. Are you sure? Asked the Sea Warlord. Yes, there is nothing of use. As that's so, well, in that case, I no longer need you, Crocodile said, with a hard edge in his voice. You were always a sneaky member of the Baroque Works. I never found out what was your real purpose in joining me, he continued. And you will never find out, was the woman's hard answer, as she took a dagger in hand and a bottle of water in the other. I know your weakness. Oh. But, Crocodile began, before blurring from sight and appearing behind the woman and slashing her with his hook, as she cried in pain. It's useless to know my secret if you can't use it against me, he finished, as she fell to the ground. Suddenly he heard movement behind him and turned toward it to see what it was. The King Cobra was adorning a smile as he pushed a button in the wall, and just a moment after, the grave of the kings began crumbling. No one will escape this place, and the secrets of this place will be forever lost, the king said. Oh, but you forgot that I can escape this place with my powers, the Shichibukai said, with a smirk as he began flying toward the exit, but was cut short as a new person appeared in front of him. A blonde-haired man, with a completely black suit, and a white marine coat over his shoulders, along with the body of a young man with a straw hat. Captain Namikaze, what a surprise seeing you here, the pirate began. Ow, I see you already caught the Mugiwara, he continued, pointing toward the young man on the marine's shoulder. Actually it's Vice Admiral Namikaze as of now, the marine said. Ah yes, I followed him, knowing that he would lead me to you. And I was right, Naruto said, with a smirk. Well, I had to disable him afterward, of course. Did we have an unfinished matter? The Shichibukai asked, feigning ignorance. I never trusted you, Crocodile. I knew you just wanted to use your status for your own evil ends. Yes. But no one took your warning to heart, even if you were the Oganshoku Kisai, the pirate stated. So what now? Well, I think you already know that, Crocodile. I'm here to escort you to your new quarters in Impel Down. Like hell I will go to that place, the Shichibukai cried out. You will never beat me. Naruto put the unconscious Luffy on the ground and cracked his neck. Let's see then, he continued, before disappearing and reappearing behind the pirate, and launching his fist toward Crocodile's face at high speed. The warlord dodged it in the last second, but he wasn't expecting an aftershock that sent him spiraling forward. As he crashed in the wall, the already unstable grave began shaking even more. He rapidly stood up and with a wave of his hand sent a wave of sand toward the marine. Naruto blurred out of the way and reappearing to Crocodile's side delivered another hockey-enhanced punch in the pirate's face, causing him to propel back in yet another wall, with blood escaping his mouth. Standing up from the rumbles, the Shichibukai jumped forward and outstretched his left hand toward the blonde, hoping to dehydrate him, but the Namikaze caught the oncoming attack in a vice grip with his right hand, and launched his left hand, with 2 fingers outstretched, toward Crocodile's chest, with a silent, "Shigen." The reaction didn't make itself wait for long, because in the manner of a pistol, the Vice Admiral completely pierced the Shichibukai's chest, not very far from his heart. Crocodile's eyes widened as he fell to the ground, holding his wound that was bleeding more and more with each second. "Crocodile, you are striped from your rank of Shichibukai and sentenced to pass the rest of your life in impel down for your action against this country and its people. Do you have anything to say in your defense?" asked the blonde. "Damn you, Namikaze," the pirate cried out before a powerful punch rendered him unconscious. Then, the Vice Admiral turned toward the king that saw all the fight and sent a little wave of haki toward him, causing him to black out, too. "I think we have to talk, Nico Robin," Naruto said to the only woman in the grave. "Not the best place nor time, don't you think?" she asked, showing the crumbling building. "That is not a problem," the blonde answered, before with a wave of his hand, freezing the crumbling grave of kings. Every stone stopping its fall, and hovering in the air, like the time itself was frozen. The woman's eyes widened at seeing that show of power. "We need to talk," the blonde repeated, slowly approaching the assassin. "And what stops me from killing you where you are standing?" she asked, crossing her hands and using her powers to make hands appear on the blonde's shoulders. "Because you can't," was Naruto's simple answer, as every hand that had appeared on his body were crushed in thousands of little pink pieces. Robin's eyes widened as she could only utter, "How? I'm a master of haki. Devil Fruit's powers doesn't affect me," he answered. "What do you want?" she asked, turning away to hide the pain she was feeling because of the wound that Crocodile had delivered. "I know who you are. I think I already understood that point. I'm talking about who you really are. Not the devil child that sank 6 marine ships. But an archaeologist prodigy with the power of the Hana no Mi, one of the only 3 persons that can read a poneglyph, and the only being that had survived the Buster Call on Ohara," the Namikaze said, causing the woman's eyes to widen more and more with each affirmation. "I know that you never sank those ships. That you never wronged someone, but you were the word government's scapegoat to hide that they destroyed a whole island and its inhabitants just to hide the truth about the Void Century. Why are you saying this to me?" she cried out, anger and frustration showing on her face. "You are all the same. The world government, the Marines. You disgust me. Never judge too quickly, Nico Robin. You should know that. What do you want? If you want to kill me, then do it. Do it without bringing up all those memories. If you have so much as a heart, then kill me." "I won't, but I want to die. I don't have a purpose anymore. You can come with me," the Namikaze proposed, crouching in front of the woman. What? "You can come with me and integrate my crew," the blonde continued. I will never work for the world government. They destroyed my life, and so did the Marines. Why did you even propose such a thing if you know so much about me?" "Because I know what you're going through. Don't lie to me, you know nothing. All of you Marines are bastards." "Listen to me," the Vice Admiral exclaimed, anger flowing on his normally calm face. "You're not the only one that has suffered. I lost my parents too. My mother was killed by pirates because she was the wife of a Marine captain, and my father was killed in front of me by a pirate. Shiki the Golden Lion," he cried out. "So who is right, you, whose parents were killed by Marines, or me, whose were killed by pirates? Answer me." I don't know." "That's right, and me too. At first I was like you. Because of that event, I hate pirates with every fiber of my body. And at first my only dream was to avenge my parents and kill as many pirates as I could. But then I understood that the world wasn't just black and white. That they were bastards everywhere. And you know what? When I killed Shiki, he admitted that he had worked with a member of the world government, the very people that I served," he continued, standing up. "But now my goal is to protect the world by stopping everyone that wants to disturb the peace, be it pirates or Marines," the Namikaze said, now turning toward Robin. "I can erase everything you've done, and everything that the word government accused you of. You will no longer have a bounty on your head. You will be free. He continued. So, will you come with me and help me protect this word? He asked, a slight smile on his face, as he swept the tear that was on the woman's cheek. She tensed at the contact, but relaxed after a few seconds. Her decision was a hard one to take. On the one side, she would be free and would be never pursued by Marines or bounty hunters. But on the other side, working with the very people that had made her life a living hell. Finally she accepted her fate. Yes, I will help you, was her simple answer. Naruto smiled and taking a hold of her hand, helped her to stand up. Blurring from sight he reappeared a second later by her side, holding Luffy and Crocodile over his shoulders and the king under his left arm. Then he outstretched his right hand toward the ex-pirate, palm up. Well then, Miss Nico Robin, welcome to the Shunji Hokaku Buntai, he said, as she put her hand in his and they disappeared in a yellow flash, and not a second later, the grave unfroze, and finally crumbled, completely destroying any way to find the Pluton. Dot, 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 in a yellow flash, they reappeared in front of the king's palace, making everyone look toward the new arrivals. Captain, all is secured and ready, exclaimed Hentaro at seeing the blonde vice admiral. And as you can see, we caught the pirate crew. Perfect, and I happen to have their captain, the Namikaze said, letting the Mugiwara fall to the ground. Luffy, cried out the orange-haired girl. What have you done to him? Exclaimed the long-nosed youth. I don't think that you're in condition of demanding anything, curly head, Hanma said. I, at last, have hair, the youth responded in a surprising show of courage. Shut up, I'm bald by my own choice, Tetsu cried out, hitting the said young man on the head. Hey, that's Naruto, cried out Sanji after looking closely at the blonde marine. Why you're right, the same long-nosed youth cried out. Don't say that we saved a marine captain, Zoro said, his eye twitching. Actually it's Vice Admiral, Zoro, the Namikaze answered, causing every Straw Hat's pirate to widen their eyes in shock. Oi, wake up. He then continued giving Luffy a little tape with his foot. The Mugiwara opened his eyes and sitting up, looked around. What's happening? Wait, is that you Naruto? I knew I would meet you again. So, would you become my nakama? The monkey asked, with a grin. Luffy, look closely. Naruto is a marine vice admiral, Zoro exclaimed. The young pirate captain's eyes widened. That couldn't be. He couldn't be a marine, could he? You're a marine? He asked. Don't you see by yourself, dumbass? Hentaro answered. What is happening? Luffy asked, after seeing his friends captured and encircled by marines, Crocodile on Naruto's shoulder, and Miss All Sunday next to the blonde vice admiral. I am the Vice Admiral Namikaze Naruto and the captain of this squad, which is the Shunji Hokaku Buntai. I'm sure you've already heard about us. The blonde began. But today we will make an exception to the rules. Senko, release them. The vice captain shared a glance with his boss, and in a burst of speed disappeared from sight, only to reappear a second later, with sea-stone shackles in his hands. What is the meaning of this? Zoro asked. You saved my life. And I owe you a life department, Naruto answered. So I will not pursue or stop you. I'm letting you leave. But remember, I just showed you that I can capture you without problem. So don't cross my path again or I would have to send you to Impel Down. You're nowhere near our level, so until you can stand a chance against us, flee, if you see us, the Namikaze explained. This would be the last time I will let you escape. The next time we meet, we're enemies, the Vice Admiral said with a hard edge in his voice. We're leaving. He finished, as every member of his squad took a hold of their captain, and Namikaze Naruto and his Shunji Hokaku Buntai disappeared in a yellow flash, leaving the flabbergasted Straw Hats. In a yellow flash, the Shunji Hokaku Buntai appeared on the deck of their ship, causing every marine that was on the said ship to point their weapons toward the new arrivals. But, seeing that they were not enemies but actually the first squad, the crew sheathed their weapons and saluted their captain. The blonde Namikaze sighed as he walked a few steps forward and handed Crocodile to his subordinates, telling them to put him in one of the special sea-stone cells. So, nothing suspicious in our absence? He then asked, looking around. No sir, one of the Marines answered. All right, 42, he cried out suddenly. Dina-chan, escort Miss Nico to the medical wing and make sure that she received the best treatment, the Vice Admiral continued as the ex-pirate looked toward him. He nodded with a slight smile, which she returned, although a little forcibly, and followed the redhead. First squad, you can do as you please, you're dismissed, and good job. Naruto said toward the rest. Oh, and 200 points for everyone, with an exception of 300 for your vice captain that did a great job. Thank you sir, they all chorused. Perfect, then take Cap to Marineford, we're going home. A few minutes later, when everyone had calmed down and was quietly doing their job, Senko approached the blonde and spoke up. Nico Robin. Yes, Senko, Nico Robin. And, why isn't she in a cell like Crocodile? The black-haired man asked, raising an eyebrow. Because, she may become a new member of Shunji Hokaku Buntai in a short while. Naruto answered as he leaned on the metallic rim, closing his yes. Gio was taken aback by the answer, but rapidly shaking it away continued with his little interrogation. Why is a pirate and an assassin integrating our crew? Without even talking about the fact that she is the devil child, with 79 million berry on her head. Senko asked. She was a pirate, she was an assassin, but she never was the devil child, the Namikaze explained after a sigh. The world government used her as a scapegoat to hide an event that they wanted to remain secret. Do you mean that she never sank those ships? The incredulous vice captain asked. Yes, but I'm in no way trying to say that she is innocent. Because she did many bad, horrible things even, in her life. But it was mostly to defend herself or run away from the people that wanted her dead because of her false bounty. Naruto explained. She suffered a fate similar to mine, and I want to help her, like people helped me. For I found friends and family, and that saved me from my hate and loneliness. But she remained alone and hated all her life, the blonde continued, now turning toward Senko. Give her a chance, try to accept her. That's the only thing I'm asking from you. Not like an order from a vice admiral to his subordinate, but a request from a friend. Don't worry, Naruto. If you have enough faith in her to let her enter our family, which is no little feat, who am I to oppose that request? I always believed in you, as had everyone on this ship, and it's not now that we'll stop. The black-haired man said, with a serious face. So, 42 huh? Yes Senko, 42. All right. The ex-Miss All Sunday sat down as two doctors started working on the wound on her back, while the ginger-haired woman sat near the wall of the room and stayed quiet. Robin never hissed nor made a sound during the whole healing process. She refused to show any sign of weakness to those people even if she was now a part of this crew. Part of a crew. For some reason she couldn't believe the sincerity of that statement, even though the blonde vice admiral had assured her about it. Asking her to help him protect the world. The very world that had rejected her. And talking about that man, she really didn't know what to think about him. He had explained that he was like her, that he had suffered just like her. But even if she wanted to believe in his words, even if she had said that she accepted his offer, she just couldn't bring herself to believe that his reasons were genuine. There must be a reason he wanted her in his crew, there was no other explanation, but for what? Did he want to use her assassination skills? No, that was ridiculous. He was a vice admiral that had bested a Shichibukai in minutes, without speaking about his crew. No, that wasn't it. Maybe, her archaeological knowledge. He had after all admitted that she was one of the three that could read a poneglyph. And now that she thought about, who were the other two? No, that was a question for another time. But that too couldn't be the reason, because he wasn't interested in the poneglyph in Alubarna when he had stopped the crumbling grave. So what was it? What did he want from her? Put it back. Had she heard something? Robin raised her head and spotted the red-haired woman staring at her with a raised eyebrow. They have finished treating your wound, Miss Nico. You can put your clothes back. The Marine said, and by the look of it, it wasn't her first time saying this. The ex-pirate nodded and started to put back her top as the other woman approached her. Can you thank the doctors for me, Marine-san? I hadn't seen them leave, Too encompassed in my thoughts, the Hana user asked. The redhead nodded but made no movement toward the exit. She silently stared at the pirate. But Robin wasn't easily intimidated, even on enemy territory, so she held the stare. Why aren't you in a cell like your boss, Nico Robin? She finally asked. A pirate, and the devil child, with a bounty of 79 million berry no less. What makes you so special? Nothing, Robin answered, clenching her jaw at the mention of her hated title. Your vice admiral just offered me to work for him. Help him catch other pirates, she continued. And you agreed, I presume? Dina asked, despite the obvious answer. She got a nod in return. In that case, you should know a few things before anything. Dina continued, narrowing her eyes and taking a step toward the pirate. Despite what you think Naruto-sama had said to you, you are still a pirate and a wanted criminal. Me being assigned to escort you wasn't because I am a woman, but because I'm the fastest blade in the entire marine, she explained, causing Robin's eyes to widen. You're starting to understand, Nico Robin. 42. That was the order of extreme awareness. Under that order, we have the duty to completely disable every marked target at the slightest sign of threat. The Marine finished, putting her hand on her dagger's handle to emphasize her point. The two of them stayed in an uncomfortable silence until Dina broke it again. You're not a guest on this ship, Miss Nico, but a prisoner, remember that. Now, I think it's time to go. Vice Admiral wants to talk to you. ... As Nico Robin and Dina entered his office, Naruto sensed an amount of tension between the two women. His subordinate was behaving like her stoic self, but the ex-pirate was on edge, with contracted muscles, ready to react. Seeing the change in demeanor, he rapidly did the math and upon conclusion, sighed. After turning toward Dina to make sure about his hunch, he received a slight nod. All right, there is no need to run around the bush anymore. You probably know about Order 42 by now. You promised that I'll be a part of your crew, that you'll help me. Robin stated, a little edge appearing in her voice. I did, and I never go back on my word. But it would have been foolish of me to trust you right away. This crew is more than a crew, it's a family. And I won't let anyone put it to danger. Naruto responded. If I deem you trustworthy, the crew will welcome you with open arms, but if you'll endanger us, I'll put you down myself. Believe it. The ex-pirate narrowed her eyes but remained quiet. What could she say after such a proclamation? She could only tighten her fists in anger. Again, she surveyed the two Marines before her and dread filled her upon realizing her situation. She was a prisoner, and all because of her blind belief that this man could change her life for the better. A belief that her incessant struggle to survive would end once and for all. But she should have known that her life would be always. Stop it, the Vice Admiral said out of the blue. Stop this struggle with yourself. I can read you like an open book, Nico Robin, so don't deny it. Just stop it and believe in me, like I believed in you to bring you here. Believe in me and I promise that I'll make your life better. Letting escape an exhausted sigh, the ex-Miss All Sunday loosened her fists and closed her eyes. This man was so different from the others. Behind his cold exterior she could feel warmth, a warmth that called to her and urged to have faith in his words. With a resigned sigh she opened her eyes and nodded toward him. I believe you. ... The journey back to Marineford took a few days, during which Robin mostly stayed in the room provided to her. The Vice Admiral was kind enough to give her a few interesting books, that she later discovered were from his personal collection. True to his words, the Order 42 was applied and 2 guards were always stationed at her door, and escorted her anywhere she went. The guards were altered every 2 hours, making her understand that the Order of extreme awareness wasn't just for show. A few hours ago, Crocodile and the rest of the Baroque Works agents were dropped off in Impel Down. Thus the time of truth had arrived. The door to her room opened and Dina entered, holding a black cloak in her hand. Put this on and follow me, Miss Nico, she said, and without waiting for an answer turned around and walked away. Not losing time, the ex-pirate slipped in the dark cloth and trailed the red head. Within a few minutes she left the ship that had been her prison for the last few days and walked behind the mysterious Vice Admiral Namikaze, toward the Gorosei, the Council of 5 Elder Stars, where her fate was to be decided. Follow my lead and don't do anything foolish, Naruto said, stopping her in front of the doors to the chambers. Then nodding toward the guards, he entered through the archway. Vice Admiral Namikaze, what is the reason of your visit? And who might be this person, hiding under that cloak, behind you? Greetings, Naruto said, bowing his head slightly. To answer your second question, I should explain myself. I met an interesting person during my mission to capture the traitor Shichibukai Crocodile. She helped me to stop the pirate, even if I was in no need of help. Nevertheless, she had put her life on the line and weakened Crocodile regardless of getting badly injured, allowing me to rapidly overpower the Shichibukai. Her spirit and powers spiked my interest, and I know that my request would sound strange, but I ask you to grant. Then with a wave of his hand pushing the hood away, continued. Nico Robin a place in my crew. He finished. Instantaneously a dozen guards appeared in the court, encircling the ex-pirate and pointing their weapons toward her neck. And despite the rapid change of atmosphere, Robin stayed stoic, unflinching to the new danger. The elders were frowning, a few of them even muttering under their breath. Your request is very strange, Vice Admiral. For someone that upholds the absolute justice and that hunts pirates, to request repentance for a lawbreaker and the devil child no less, is worrisome. I understand and I want to put your worries at ease, dear counsel. I'm not requesting her release or her repentance, merely a change of perspective. Much like the Shichibukai, I desire to use her prowess for the cause of justice. The Namikaze explained. Let us think about your request, Vice Admiral. Wait here until we return. The elders slowly left the chamber, leaving Naruto and Robin in the company of the guards. A few dozen minutes later, the council returned and took their seats. We've came to an accord, Vice Admiral. Due to the recent treason of the Shichibukai Crocodile, there is unbalance in the powers and a seat is empty. What we want is for you to persuade someone of our choice to take on this vacant seat. If you are successful in this endeavor, we'll grant you your request. Until then, she will remain in Impel Down. Who is this new Shichibukai then? Naruto asked. Boa Hancock. One of the elders answered, making the blonde frown. The Kuja Empress. Yes, I think you've heard of her power. Indeed. In that case, you are allowed to use any means necessary to make her accept the seat. Consider it done, Naruto replied with a nod. Then turning around he walked away, whispering believe in me, to Robin as he passed her. She could only hope that he would keep his promise. Boa Hancock, sir. Yes, Senko. Hell yeah, we'll see the infamous Snake Princess. Hentaro cried out with a grin on his face. I call dibs on her. You, call dibs on her, Pipsqueak. Dina said, passing him with a nudge. You may not be the ugliest specimen around, but you are still 100 years too early for such a declaration. Hey, that's not very nice, the metal man replied outrageously. I think she may prefer someone like me. The bald Hanma stated, taking on a ridiculous pose. Stop it, all of you. We're not going for a walk in the park. This is serious, Naruto intervened. Boa Hancock is dangerous. She can turn her enemies to stone just by a glance. She is very proficient at hand-to-hand combat, and above all she can use the 3 forms of Haki. Whoa, she is so cool, Hentaro exclaimed, causing the Vice Admiral to sigh in exasperation. He loved this little family with all his heart, but they were so annoying at times. Be ready for anything. This island is filled with man-hating female warriors, so our welcome party wouldn't be of the gentlest. Naruto explained, as he along with the first squad approached the great walls that guarded Amazon Lily from the outside world. Halt! Someone cried out in the distance. Who are yo, men? Men on our lands, the voice continued. Am I invisible? Dina asked, raising an eyebrow. No, but their hate for men is clouding their judgment. The blonde continued. It doesn't really matter. Stop right away, and don't approach any further or we'll retaliate. Another female voice screamed over the walls. I'm Vice Admiral Namikaze of the Marines, and I need to speak to Boa Hancock. Naruto answered. Your kind is not welcome here. Turn back and leave this island. I think you don't understand the importance of this meeting. I need to see your Empress. Naruto continued, a frown appearing on his face. Their immaturity was getting annoying. How many? He then asked, turning toward his crew. 30, maybe 40, less than 50 that's for sure. Senko answered. All right, last chance. The blonde whispered. I repeat, I was sent here by the world government, and if this matter is not settled by my return to Marineford, your island and all its inhabitants will be destroyed. Go away. I said I need to speak to Boa Hancock right now. Naruto cried out, finishing with a powerful wave of Haoshoku Haki. One left, his vice captain stated. Good enough, the vice admiral said, approaching the gates to the city. And after a nod from the blonde, Hentaro turned into his metal form and bashed the doors from their hinges with a loud bang. Was that really necessary? Dina asked, shaking her head. I can understand that their immaturity was really irritating, but as a woman I have to. Dina, all right. With a fast pace, the crew entered the city and found the 40 or so Amazon warriors lying out cold, with only one of them still conscious but not by much. After Hanma went to approach her, and seeing the widening of her eyes, Dina shoved her bald crewmate away and crouched in front of the warrior. Where is your Empress? We're not here to arrest her, for now, so tell me. As a woman to a woman, the female Marine continued. If you're with them, you're not a real woman. The Amazon replied, making Hentaro cackle in delight. What did you? Dina, arg, I'm trying to play nice here in this by. Dina, can I at least cut her? But her vice admiral interrupted her again. What? It was just a passing though. Let's go, I know where she is. I sensed her presence in that building. The blonde said, pointing toward a castle-like structure. The Shunji Hokaku Buntai continued onward, but after a few dozen steps they were surrounded by the Amazon warriors. Finally you deem us worthy of your company, Boa Hancock. Naruto stated with a snort. There stood the Snake Princess, with her long and dark hair, her quite revealing outfit showing of her perfect figure and finally her beautiful face, the most beautiful woman in the world. Or so they said. I deem nothing at all, Marine. Don't speak as if you know what I think. The Empress replied with a sneer that deformed her beautiful face. Your mere presence on my island is an affront punishable by death. Death you say? Well, that's quite fortunate, because my presence here can very well influence your well-being as well as that of your people. The blonde retorted, his eyes narrowing. He could understand that some people wanted to leave peacefully and the meddling of the Marines could sometimes be annoying. But to outright threaten them, that was something he couldn't accept. What is the meaning of this? Boa asked, an angry frown marring her face. You see, a seat in the world government was vacated, and the council selected you to fill that seat. The world government chose you as the new Shichibukai. What? I have no business with those geezers. So you can take that proposition, and return to wherever you came from. The Empress said snidely. Princess, a little old woman exclaimed beside Hancock. That's not something you can say to a vice admiral. But he will forgive me, because I'm beautiful, she whispered, her expression taking on a pouty quality, which Naruto had to agree, was cute. Had the situation not been so serious, he would have laughed at her change of heart. Sadly, the rest of his crew wasn't as strong-willed as him it seemed. Hentaro's eyes were replaced by hearts. Hanma adorned a creepy smile. Dina turned away blushing a little, and the most surprising of all, Senko was now a statue, a stone statue. Sighing in annoyance, he slammed his hockey-imbibed finger to his vice-captain's head, making him topple to the ground, reverted to his flesh form. Instantly he jumped to his feet and hung his head in shame. My apologies, sir. Ignoring the now humiliated man, Naruto turned back toward Hancock. Your beauty will not help you with this matter, princess. The proposition made by the world government isn't one you can refuse. But I refuse it nonetheless. Boa retorted, going back to her cold and expressionless exterior. Princess, reflect on the ins and outs of this proposition. The old woman interjected again. That's enough, Nyan. I don't care. The Empress exclaimed again. You seem to forget one little thing, you're a pirate. And if you reject the Shichibukai seat, I'll be obligated to apprehend you and take you to Impel Down, and your island will be marked for a buster call. As I said, you can't refuse the world government, Naruto explained. And despite what he said, he felt angered that everything he said was the complete truth. The world government commanded too much power. Princess, Nyan said forcibly, and for an instant Hancock seemed uncertain, but that instant passed and her cold and indifferent facade came back. "What should I do?" she asked suddenly. "Good choice." Naruto nodded. "You'll have to accompany me to Mariajoy," he continued, surprised by the widening of the princess's eyes. "Mariajoy? I will come with my ship." "No, you have to come with me as a sign that you abide to the laws. Of course you can take a few of your warriors for the escort purpose," Naruto interjected. "All right, Marigold, Sandersonia, you will come with me, Nyan." "I'll come along too." "No discussion," the elder woman said, and surprisingly the Empress agreed without much fuss. "In that case we can go." The Vice Admiral then nodded to his subordinates and they left the city, closely followed by the Gorgon sisters and the Amazon warriors. It was the dawn of the second day of their travel back to Mariajoy, and nothing had changed since the day before. Boa Hancock could render even the most organized marine crews like the Shunji Hokaku Buntai into a blabbering mess on the floor, which Naruto restrained himself to not hurl overboard. "Hentaro," he cried out, seeing the metal man's umpteenth attempt to woo the snake princess. "What?" was his first answer, but upon realizing to whom he was talking to, his face paled beyond natural, and after a wave to Hancock, the man blurred from sight. "You're a lot like the princess," said a voice beside him. It was the elder Nyan. She sat next to him and held his stare, making him raise an eyebrow. "Arrogant and completely full of oneself," the blonde whispered with a roll of his eyes. "No, hiding great warmth behind a cold exterior," she replied. "I'm not hiding anything, old woman. Maybe not as much as the princess, but you can't deceive my eyes." "Eyes that had seen life and death," Nyan continued. "Hancock isn't a bad person, but a dark past had tarnished her views of the world. As it had yours." "Why are you telling me this, old woman?" Naruto said suddenly, exasperated by the turn that the discussion had taken. "Tell him what, Nyan?" the said princess asked, surprising the blonde by the unexpected appearance. "Oh, nothing, nothing." The elder waved to the woman. "Sir, an urgent message," one of the marines cried out. "I'm coming." Naruto slowly stood up, nodded to old woman, and then turning to the Empress blurred from sight. He reappeared in the communication room and approached Senko, which was adorning a worried expression. "What is it?" "We don't know. The messenger said that he had to talk to you in person, as per Captain Hina's orders." His vice captain explained. "This is Vice Admiral Namikaze. I'm listening. State your mission." "Sir, thank goodness. Yes sir. We are in a dire need of help. Our mission consisted in a spy operation in the New World and everything went well until we were attacked. There are too much of them around us." "Who attacked you?" Naruto cried out into the Den Den Mushi. "The Yonko," the man screamed over the background noise. Instantly everyone quieted down, the news shocking them to silence. Even Naruto was speechless for a few seconds. "Which one and how many of them?" the blonde asked One Edge. "Big Mom, with about 30 ships. We can't last much longer. Whatever you can, please do it sir. Captain Hina had faith in you, so help us. Help," and the transmission was ended. "Damn it," Naruto cried out, slamming his fist on the table and breaking the expensive furniture. "Sir, Senko, prepare the Hiraishin," the Vice Admiral exclaimed before storming from the room. Damn it, damn it, damn it. He had still the mission with Boa Hancock to accomplish, but Hina came first. Hina came above all else. Stepping on the deck he approached the now confused Amazons. They had to know what was going on if he was to succeed in his endeavor. "What is the meaning of this?" the princess asked. "We had an urgent distress call from a marine crew. They are in a particularly tight spot, and if we don't come to their aid, they will all die." The blonde explained. "I don't care, princess," Nyan exclaimed again, seeing the darkening of the vice admiral's eyes. "I will ask you to go inside and wait there until all is settled." "I'm not a little girl for you to defend me," Boa retorted. "What common scum do you think can cause me harm?" "The Yonko," was Naruto's simple answer, making their eyes widen. "The Yonko? What is one of the Yonko doing on Grand Line?" "Nothing, because it's happening in the New World," Naruto explained. "New World, and how would we, sir?" Senko cried out as metallic bars started to come out of the ground. They were of the number of 10, with the biggest being at the front of the ship. "Please, get inside," Naruto said, and without waiting for an answer rushed toward the biggest bar. "Get ready people, Senko, Hentaro, Hanma, Dina. Get into positions," he cried out, and each of the aforementioned marines took place behind their leader, taking a hold of their own metallic bar. Suddenly, Naruto started to scream from the strain of whatever was happening to him, and an aura of haki crashed over everyone. The power escaped from the man in waves, flapping every cloth on the ship. "Brace yourselves," he cried out, and out of a sudden the ship was like gripped by a shudder and started to shake violently. A blue halo formed in front of the boat, and without any warning it jumped forward. What they saw would still haunt the Amazons for a long while, because in a swirl of color and with a mighty shove, the ship crashed in the water, this time nowhere near Marineford, but in the middle of a water battlefield, surrounded by dozens of warships. The shock of what had happened still lingering in their minds, the Amazons saw the blonde vice admiral disappear in a yellow flash, after having yelled, "You know what to do." Naruto reappeared on the ship that he knew quite closely, for it was Hina's ship. The deck was filled with holes, fallen marines and pirates. But there was no sign of the pink-haired captain. With a curse he turned toward his ship and saw his crew evacuating Hina's crewmates, disabling every pirate on their way. Closing his eyes he tried to locate his friend, and after a few milliseconds, disappeared in another yellow flash. There was Hina, fighting a dozen pirates on an enemy ship, blood covering her entire body, her clothes nearly shredded to pieces. She was struggling to stand, that was evident by just a glance. With another flash, he appeared in front of her and with a might roar disabled all the pirates she was fighting with a wave of Haoshoku haki. Turning around he spotted her relieved face and the hope that filled her eyes. "Naruto-kun, you came for Hina." "Of course I have. Now let's get out of here before we get ourselves blown to bits," Naruto proposed, and without waiting for an answer he lifted her bridal style and disappeared in a yellow flash, only to reappear on his ship. "Sir, the pirate ships are closing on us. They are going to fire. Is everyone evacuated?" "Yes." "All right." Naruto put Hina on her legs and walked to the front. Looking around he rapidly spotted the closer ships and closed his eyes. Then suddenly he cried out, "Tsuchi, Shinran, Earth, Forest," and a second later big spikes of earth raised from the ocean completely piercing the enemy ships. After rapidly observing his handiwork, he slammed his fists together and cried out, "Tsuchi," Encho, and a dome-like structure spouted from the ocean surrounding their ship from nearly any side. "That'll stop them for a moment," Naruto said, rapidly jumping toward the metallic bar, his crew already there, waiting for him. With a nod from the blonde, all of them started to push as much energy as they could in the rods, before the strange sensation gripped everyone again, and they disappeared with a loud boom. A few seconds later, the ship crashed in the water, creating a great shockwave and making everyone on board crash to the ground. The blonde vice admiral surveyed his surroundings and smiled. "Good," he said before his eyes rolled back and he fell forward, only to be caught by the pink-haired captain. "Naruto-kun, always playing the hero," she whispered with a smile. And a few steps away, the shocked Boa Hancock could only think one thing: who is this man? The end. Now we will see you in the next video.